The call came at 7:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was reviewing quarterly reports for my wellness centers. I should have known something was wrong when I saw Mom flashing on my phone screen. She never called before noon. Paisley, honey, we need to talk. My name is Paisley Simpson, and I've learned that when my mother uses that particular tone, the one that sounds like she's delivering a terminal diagnosis, someone's about to get screwed. Usually me. What's wrong now? I set down my coffee and braced myself. It's about Lindsay. She's had another episode. Of course she had. My 31-year-old sister collected episodes like other people collected stamps. This would be, what, number 4? 5? I'd honestly lost count. She needs help, Paisley. Real help this time. Mom, we've been through this. No, listen. We found this amazing place. It's holistic, therapeutic, everything she needs. The Serenity Springs Wellness Center. Have you heard of it? My blood turned to ice. Serenity Springs wasn't just any wellness center. It was my wellness center, my flagship location, the crown jewel of the empire I'd built from nothing while my family was too busy cleaning up Lindsay's messes to notice. I I think I've heard of it, I managed. The intake fee is substantial, but we figured it out. We're going to use your house fund. The words hit me like a physical blow. My house fund. The $47,000 I've been saving for 3 years, living in a studio apartment, eating ramen, driving a car held together with duct tape and prayers. The money I trusted them to hold in their joint account because my credit union had lower interest rates. You're going to what? Paisley. She almost died this time. She was found unconscious in some stranger's apartment. We can't lose her. What about losing me? The words came out sharper than I intended. Honey, you're strong. You've always been strong. Lindsay is fragile. She needs consequences, Mom, not another $30,000 vacation disguised as treatment. It's not a vacation. This place is serious. They have strict rules, no contact with the outside world for the first week, intensive therapy sessions. It's exactly what she needs. I closed my eyes and saw myself at 16, watching my parents drain their savings for Lindsay's first rehab stint, while I worked double shifts at the grocery store to pay for my own school clothes. I saw myself at 22, taking out student loans because there was no college fund left after Lindsay's gap year in Europe turned into a 6-month bender. I saw myself at 25 starting my business with a maxed out credit card because every family resource had been funneled into the black hole of my sister's addiction. When does she start? I asked quietly. Tomorrow. We're driving her up tonight. Paisley, I know this is hard, but it's fine, Mom. Really? Really? I hope it helps her. And I meant it, because they had no idea they just delivered my sister directly into my hands. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, staring out at the city skyline. My assistant knocked twice, but I didn't answer. I was too busy remembering. I remembered being 8 years old, watching my parents rush to the hospital because Lindsay had accidentally taken too many of Mom's sleeping pills. I remembered being 12, lying to my friends about why I couldn't go to the movies because we couldn't afford it, not after paying for Lindsay's therapy. I remembered being 19, coming home from my first semester of college to find my room converted into an art studio for Lindsay's recovery process. I remembered every time they called me strong, responsible, independent. Every time they'd said I didn't need help because I was so capable. Every time they'd chosen her fragility over my strength. Well, they were about to learn exactly how capable I really was. I picked up my phone and dialed Miles, my center manager. Miles, it's me. We're getting a new client tomorrow. High priority. I need you to pull her file and meet me in conference room A in 20 minutes. Sure thing. What's the client's name? Lindsay Simpson. And Miles? This one's personal. I hung up and allowed myself a smile. After 29 years of being the responsible one, the strong one, the one who didn't need anything, I was finally going to get what I needed: justice. I watched through the one-way glass as my parents' Volvo pulled into the circular drive. My father got out first, shoulders hunched like he was walking into a hurricane. Mom emerged next, clutching her purse like a shield. Then came Lindsay. Even from 3 stories up, she looked exactly like what she was, a 31-year-old woman who'd never faced a real consequence in her life. Designer jeans, perfectly styled hair, and that particular slouch that screamed, "This is happening to me, not because of me." "That's her?" Miles asked, joining me at the window. "That's her." "She looks entitled?" "Yeah, that's the family brand." I briefed Miles and Camila, my head therapist, on the situation. Well, most of it. They knew Lindsay was my sister. They knew my parents had stolen my house fund. They didn't know about the detailed revenge plan I'd been crafting since yesterday. "Remember," I told Miles as we headed downstairs, "I'm just another administrator today. No special treatment, no recognition." "Got it. And the intake process? By the book, every single rule." I'd changed into a generic business suit and pulled my hair back severely. With my glasses on and clipboard in hand, I looked like any other wellness center employee. Lindsay had always been too self-absorbed to pay attention to me anyway. The lobby doors opened and my family walked in. Mom immediately started gushing to the receptionist about the drive, the weather, how beautiful the facility was. Dad stood silent, hands in his pockets. Lindsay surveyed the space like she was rating a hotel. "This is nice," she announced. "Very zen. I was worried it would be all sterile and clinical." "Miss Simpson?" I stepped forward, clipboard ready. "I'm here to handle your intake process." Lindsay barely glanced at me. "Great. How long will this take? I'm exhausted from the drive." "About 2 hours. We'll need to go through your medical history, treatment goals, and facility orientation." 2 hours? Mom looked panicked. "We were hoping to get her settled and maybe grab dinner nearby." "I'm sorry, but family members aren't permitted past the lobby during intake. It's part of our therapeutic protocol." "But we drove 3 hours," Dad said quietly. "I understand, and I appreciate you bringing Ms. Simpson here. However, our success rate is directly tied to our structured approach. No exceptions." Lindsay rolled her eyes. "It's fine. You guys can go. I'll call you tonight." Actually, I consulted my clipboard. All outside communication is restricted for the first 72 hours. It helps clients focus on their recovery without external distractions. 72 hours? Lindsay's voice pitched higher. "That's ridiculous. I need to check in with the work, my friends." "Your parents signed the intake agreement yesterday. All terms were clearly outlined." Mom stepped forward. "Maybe we could make an exception. Lindsay has some important—" "Mrs. Simpson, I understand your concern, but we found that exceptions undermine the entire therapeutic process. Would you prefer we compromise your daughter's recovery?" The guilt trip worked perfectly. Mom stepped back, properly chastened. "Lindsay, honey, it's only 3 days," she said. 3 days without my phone, without talking to anyone. This is insane. Miss Simpson," I kept my voice professionally neutral, "if you're not comfortable with our program requirements, you're free to seek treatment elsewhere. However, the intake fee is non-refundable." The magic words. $47,000. My $47,000 hanging in the balance. Lindsay's shoulders sagged. "Fine. Whatever. Let's just get this over with." I led her toward the intake wing while my parents lingered in the lobby. Through the glass doors, I could see Mom crying into Dad's shoulder. "Your parents seem worried," I commented as we walked. "They're always worried. It's their thing. Honestly, I don't know why they're making such a big deal about this. It's not like I'm dying or anything. What would you say brought you here? Bad luck, mostly. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong people. You know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. 29 years of watching Lindsay blame everyone and everything except herself. We reached the intake room where Camila was waiting. She stood as we entered, extending her hand. Lindsay, I'm Camila, your primary therapist. Welcome to Serenity Springs. Thanks. So when do I get to see my room? I requested one of the suites with the mountain view. Camila and I exchanged glances. Actually, Camila said gently, all our rooms are standard occupancy. No special accommodations. But my parents paid extra. For intensive treatment, I interrupted, which includes shared living spaces to build community and accountability. Shared? You mean like a roommate? Exactly. You'll be paired with Stella, another client who arrived yesterday. Lindsay's face went through several expressions before settling on resigned annoyance. Fine, but I want to call my parents first. After the 72-hour period, Camila said firmly, this is ridiculous. Do you know what my family paid for this place? I knew exactly what they'd paid, down to the last penny of my stolen dreams. Let's begin with your medical history, I said, pen poised over my clipboard. For the first time in my life, my sister was going to follow my rules. You're playing with fire, Camila said, closing the door to my office behind her. I looked up from Lindsay's file where I'd been highlighting particularly damaging incidents from her intake interview. I'm providing therapeutic intervention. You're orchestrating revenge. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, accountability and consequences look pretty similar. Camilla sat across from my desk, her expression serious. I've been doing this for 12 years, Paisley. I've seen what happens when therapy becomes personal vendetta. And I've been living with this family for 29 years. I've seen what happens when there are no consequences at all. Tell me about the group session you want to add to her schedule. I slid the modified treatment plan across the desk. Anonymous sharing circle. Clients discuss their impact on family members without identifying themselves. Very therapeutic. And you'll be participating anonymously? As a concerned family member affected by addiction. Completely legitimate. Camila scanned the document. Davis is leading her individual sessions? He's our best at breaking through denial. I thought Lindsay could benefit from his direct approach. His approach that made 3 clients cry last month. His approach that got 3 clients to finally take responsibility for their actions. A knock interrupted us. Miles poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. Lindsay's roommate situation. What about it? Stella's been smuggling contraband. Lindsay caught her and they had a screaming match in the hallway. Stella's claiming Lindsay was involved. Perfect. I'd been wondering how to separate Lindsay from her enabler friend. What kind of contraband? Camilla asked. Prescription pills, not hers, and a burner phone. Where's Lindsay now? Dining hall. She's telling anyone who'll listen that she's being framed. I stood up. I'll handle this. Paisley, Camilla started. I'll handle this professionally. The dining hall buzzed with tension when I walked in. Lindsay sat at a corner table, gesturing wildly to 2 other clients who looked uncomfortable with the attention. Completely insane that they'd believe her over me. I've been here 2 days and I'm already being accused of smuggling drugs. Do I look like someone who needs to smuggle anything? I approached their table. Ms. Simpson, could I speak with you privately? Finally, someone with authority. This whole situation is ridiculous. I led her to a quiet alcove near the windows. I understand there was an incident with your roommate. Incident? She's been popping pills since she got here and hiding them in my stuff. When I confronted her, she tried to blame me. It's textbook manipulation. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation. Look, I know I've made mistakes, but I'm not stupid. I wouldn't jeopardize my recovery by smuggling drugs into rehab. What would you say your biggest mistake has been? The question caught her off guard. What? You mentioned making mistakes. What's been the biggest one? She shifted uncomfortably. I don't know. Trusting the wrong people, I guess. Not the stealing? I never stole anything. The credit cards you maxed out in your parents' names? That was borrowing. I always intended to pay them back. The college fund you spent on your Europe trip? Her face flushed. How do you know about that? It's in your file. Your parents were very thorough about your history. That money was sitting there doing nothing. I was going to replace it. With what income? I had plans, business ideas, like the art studio they funded. That was a legitimate business venture. That lasted 3 months. The market wasn't ready for my vision. I made notes on my clipboard. What about your sister? What about her? How would you say your choices have affected her? Lindsay's expression hardened. Paisley's fine. She's always been fine. She's the responsible one, remember? The one who doesn't need help. But she's been helping your family financially for years. By choice. Nobody asked her to. Nobody asked her to pay for your mistakes either. Look, I don't know what kind of therapy this is supposed to be, but I don't appreciate being attacked. I came here to get better, not to be lectured about my family dynamics by some administrator. You're right. I apologize. Let's focus on your current situation. We'll be moving you to a single room while we investigate the contraband incident. Good. I don't want a room with someone who's actively using. And we'll be adding some additional therapy sessions to your schedule. Individual work with Davis, our senior therapist. Fine. When do I start? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. And when can I call my parents? It's been 2 days. After your first session with Davis, we want to make sure you're in the right headspace for family contact. She nodded, looking slightly mollified. One more thing, I said as she turned to leave. The anonymous group session tonight, 7 p.m. in the meditation room. It's optional but highly recommended. What kind of group session? Family impact sharing. Clients discuss how their addiction has affected their loved ones. Very healing. Sounds depressing. Sounds necessary. As she walked away, I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. The same feeling I'd had at 16 when I found out about the college fund. At 22 when they'd missed my graduation for Lindsay's crisis. At 25 when they'd forgotten my birthday because Lindsay was in the hospital again. Tonight, for the first time in my life, Lindsay was going to hear exactly how her choices had affected someone else. She just wouldn't know that someone was me. The anonymous group session was everything I'd hoped for and more. I sat in the circle wearing a baseball cap and hoodie, looking like any other family member attending the evening support group. Lindsay entered 5 minutes late, scanning the room with obvious reluctance. Welcome, everyone, Camila began. Tonight, we're focusing on impact statements, family members and clients sharing how addiction has affected their relationships. Remember, this is a safe space. No names, no judgment. A middle-aged man started talking about his son's gambling addiction. Then a woman shared about her husband's drinking. When it was my turn, I kept my voice steady and low. My sister has been in and out of treatment 4 times. Each time my parents drained their savings, take out loans, sacrifice everything to fund her recovery. Meanwhile, I've been working since I was 14 to support myself. Lindsay shifted in her seat but didn't look up. Last week, they took my house down payment to pay for this place. $47,000 I'd saved for 3 years. They didn't ask. They just took it. How did that make you feel? Camila prompted gently. invisible. Like my dreams don't matter because I'm not the one falling apart. Like being responsible is a punishment instead of a virtue. Across the circle, Lindsay's head snapped up. For a split second, our eyes met, but the cap shadowed my face enough that she looked away without recognition. I love my sister, I continued, but I hate what she's done to our family. I hate that her chaos always comes first. I hate that I'm expected to be strong while she's allowed to be broken. Lindsay stood abruptly. I need some air. She rushed out, leaving the circle in awkward silence. Should someone go after her? Asked another client. She'll be fine, Camilla said. Sometimes the truth is hard to hear. After the session, I found Camilla in her office. That was intense, she said without looking up from her notes. It was honest. It was calculated. You knew exactly what buttons to push. I shared my experience. Isn't that what therapy is about? Camilla finally met my eyes. What's your end game here, Paisley? What happens when you thoroughly destroyed your sister's sense of self? Maybe she'll finally understand what she's put everyone through. Or maybe she'll relapse harder than ever. Shame isn't a sustainable motivator for recovery. Before I could respond, Miles burst in. We have a problem. Stella's been removed from the program. What happened? She was caught with a full pharmacy in her room. Pills, edibles, even some powder were having tested. But here's the thing. She's claiming Lindsay was her supplier. That's ridiculous, I said immediately. Is it? Because Stella's story is pretty detailed. She says Lindsay had connections from her previous stays at other facilities. Says they had a whole network set up. Camilla frowned. What's Lindsay saying? She's not saying anything. She's locked herself in her room and won't come out. And the parents? Miles grimaced. That's the other problem. They've been calling nonstop since Stella's family contacted them. Apparently, Stella told her parents that this place is abusive and targeting vulnerable clients. My phone buzzed. Mom's number. I have to take this. Paisley? Mom's voice was strained. We need to talk about what's happening at that place. What do you mean? Lindsay's roommate called her parents claiming the staff is harassing clients, making false accusations. They're saying Lindsay is being singled out. Mom, I'm sure there's an explanation. We want her moved to a different facility. This isn't working. You can't move her. You signed a contract. We'll forfeit the money if we have to. This place sounds toxic. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were willing to throw away my house fund twice, once to put Lindsay here and again to remove her. Let me make some calls, I said. See what I can find out. Thank you, honey. I know this is hard for you too, losing your savings for this, but family comes first, right? After I hung up, Camilla was staring at me. Your parents want to pull her out. They're scared. Stella's family is spreading rumors, and you're going to convince them to keep her here. I'm going to find out what really happened with Stella. Miles cleared his throat. There's something else? I did some digging on Stella's background. She's been kicked out of 3 facilities in the past 2 years. Always the same pattern, smuggling contraband, then claiming persecution when she gets caught. So Lindsay's innocent? Of the smuggling, yeah, but Paisley. Miles hesitated. Stella mentioned something else. She said Lindsay told her about a sister who thinks she's better than everyone and deserves whatever's coming to her. The words hit like a physical blow. She said that? According to Stella. And there's more. She said Lindsay bragged about manipulating your parents into using your college fund years ago. Said it was easier than expected because they always choose the broken bird over the strong one. Camilla leaned forward. Paisley, are you okay? I wasn't okay. I was furious. All these years I'd assumed Lindsay was just selfish and thoughtless. I'd never considered that her destruction of my life might be intentional. Schedule her session with Davis for tomorrow morning, I said quietly. What are you planning? Nothing, just therapy. Intensive, thorough, accountability-focused therapy. Paisley? She wants to play games? Fine, but she's going to play by my rules now. I was reviewing Davis's session notes when Miles knocked on my office door. You have a visitor. Says he's here about the investment proposal. I looked up confused. We're not expecting any investors today. That's what I told him, but he mentioned your name specifically. Says you know him. Theo something? My blood turned to ice. Theo, my ex-boyfriend from college, the one who'd walked away when my family drama became too much for him to handle. Send him up. 5 minutes later, Theo walked into my office looking exactly like he had 3 years ago, tall, confident, wearing that easy smile that used to make me forget all my problems. Hello, Paisley. What are you doing here? I'm working with Morrison Capital now. They're considering an investment in wellness centers. He gestured around my office. Imagine my surprise when I realized this was your place. How did you find out? I saw you yesterday in the lobby talking to that blonde woman and her parents. You look different, professional, but definitely you. I closed the file I'd been reading. What do you want, Theo? To talk. Maybe catch up. It's been a long time. 3 years? Not that long. Long enough for you to build all this? He looked around appreciatively. I always knew you'd be successful. You were the most driven person I ever met. Driven? Right. That's what you called it when you broke up with me. His smile faltered. That's not fair. Isn't it? You said my family was too much drama, and you needed someone who could be present in the relationship. Your sister was in crisis every other week. You were constantly running off to handle some emergency because no one else would. I know, and I was young and selfish. I didn't understand what you were dealing with. And now you do? Now I understand that you were protecting everyone around you, even when it cost you everything. Before I could respond, my phone rang, Davis's extension. Excuse me, I told Theo, then answered. How did it go? She's broken, Davis said quietly. I've never seen someone crack that fast. She's asking for her parents. What did she tell you? Everything. The college fund, the credit cards, the lies. But Paisley, there's something else. Something she's never told anyone. What? I think you need to hear this yourself. Can you come down? I hung up and looked at Theo. I have to go. Work emergency. Family emergency. Same thing, really. Mind if I wait? I'd like to finish our conversation. I hesitated. Fine, but don't touch anything. Davis met me outside the therapy room. She's been crying for 20 minutes. I pushed her on the financial stuff and she just collapsed. Good. That's what we wanted. Paisley, she told me about a car accident when she was 17. She was driving drunk, hit another car. A family was hurt. I don't remember any accident. Because your parents covered it up, paid the family's medical bills, legal fees, everything. That's where your college fund really went. The hallway seemed to tilt. What? She's been carrying this guilt for 14 years. The addiction, the acting out. It all started after the accident. But she told Stella she manipulated them into using my money. She was trying to sound tough. The truth is she's been drowning in shame since she was a teenager, and your parents enabled it by protecting her from consequences. Through the one-way glass, I could see Lindsay curled up in the chair, tissues scattered around her feet. She wants to call your parents, Davis continued. She says she's ready to tell them everything. Everything? The accident, the cover-up, how the guilt has been eating her alive. She wants to make amends. I stared at my sister through the glass. For the first time in years, she looked small, vulnerable, actually broken instead of just acting broken. Set up the call, I said quietly. Are you sure? Once she tells them about the accident, set up the call. Conference room B. I want to observe. 20 minutes later, I sat behind another one-way mirror as Lindsay dialed our parents. Davis sat beside her for support. Mom, it's me. Lindsay, honey, how are you? We've been so worried. Mom, I need to tell you something about the accident. The real reason you used Paisley's college money. Silence on the other end. What accident, sweetheart? The one when I was 17, when I hit that family on Route 9, when you paid them off to keep me out of jail. Lindsay, what are you talking about? The Hendersons, the little girl who was in the hospital for 3 months. You used Paisley's college fund to pay their medical bills. Honey, I think you're confused. There was no accident. We used that money for your art program in Europe, remember? Lindsay's face went white. What? Your gap year. You said you needed to find yourself artistically. We thought it would help you mature. But the accident, the family. There was no accident, Lindsay. You've never been in any serious trouble with the law. Davis and I exchanged glances. Lindsay was staring at the phone like it had grown fangs. Mom, I remember the accident. I remember you and Dad crying, talking about lawyers. Sweetheart, I think the stress of treatment is affecting your memory. Maybe we should come get you. No, Lindsay's voice cracked. I remember. I killed someone. You didn't kill anyone, honey. You've never hurt anyone but yourself. The call ended with Mom promising to drive up immediately. Lindsay sat in stunned silence. False memory, Davis said quietly. Guilt and shame can create incredibly vivid false memories. She's been punishing herself for something that never happened. I watched my sister fall apart and felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. My parents arrived 3 hours later looking like they'd aged a decade during the drive. I met them in the lobby, still playing my role as the concerned administrator. How is she? Mom asked immediately. Confused, distressed. She's been having some breakthrough moments in therapy, but they're intense. We want to see her, Dad said firmly. This has gone on long enough. Of course. We've arranged a family session. Our head therapist will facilitate. I led them to conference room A, where Camila was already waiting with Lindsay. My sister looked fragile, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow. Mom, Dad, Lindsay stood shakily. I'm so sorry about everything. Mom rushed to embrace her. Well, it's okay, baby. We're here now. Please, everyone sit. Camila gestured to the circle of chairs. We have a lot to discuss. I took a seat slightly behind my parents, clipboard ready, still maintaining my administrator facade. Lindsay has made some significant breakthroughs, Camila began. She's ready to discuss how her addiction has affected your family. I stole from you, Lindsay said quietly. Over and over. I lied, I manipulated, I took advantage of your love. Honey, we know, Mom said. We've always known. But you never stopped me. We couldn't. You're our daughter. What about your other daughter? The words came out before I could stop them. Everyone turned to look at me. Camila's eyes widened in warning. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I shouldn't have spoken. It's just, in cases like this, siblings are often affected too. Paisley's strong, Dad said automatically. She's always been able to handle things. Has she? Camila asked gently. Lindsay, how do you think your choices have affected your sister? Lindsay was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. We don't really talk. Why not? Because she hates me, and she has every right to. I don't hate you, I said, then caught myself. I mean, from what I understand, sibling relationships in these situations are complex. Mom looked at me strangely. You seem very invested in this family's dynamics. My heart pounded. It's just, I have a sister too, similar situation. Lindsay, Camilla redirected, tell your parents about the college fund. You used my money for her Europe trip, I said, the words tumbling out. $47,000 I'd saved since I was 14. You didn't ask. You just took it. The room went dead silent. What did you just say? Dad asked slowly. I stood up, my hands shaking. You took my house money, just like you took my college money, just like you've taken everything I've ever worked for to fund her disasters. Who are you? Mom whispered. I pulled off my glasses, let my hair down. I'm your other daughter, the one you forgot about. Lindsay's face went white. Paisley? Surprise. You own this place, Dad said, realization dawning. I own this place. I built this business from nothing while you were busy enabling her addiction, and when you stole my house fund to bring her here, you delivered her right into my hands. Oh, my God, Mom breathed. What have you done? I gave her exactly what she needed, accountability, consequences, the truth. You manipulated us, Lindsay said, her voice rising. You've been playing games with my recovery. I've been giving you real therapy, more real than anything you've ever experienced. This is sick, Mom stood up. Using your sister's addiction for revenge, using my money for her addiction was sick too, but that didn't stop you. We were trying to save her life. What about saving mine? What about the life I could have had if you'd invested even half as much in me as you did in her? Dad looked broken. Paisley, we didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easier to let me be the strong one, the responsible one, the one who didn't need anything. I never asked for this, Lindsay said quietly. Yes, you did. Every time you called them crying, every time you played the victim, every time you let them choose you over me. I was sick. You were selfish. There's a difference. Camilla stood up. Everyone needs to take a breath. No, I said. We're done taking breaths. We're done pretending this is normal. You want to know what your precious daughter told her roommate? That I deserve whatever's coming to me. That manipulating you was easier than expected. Lindsay's face crumpled. I didn't mean. You meant every word, just like you meant to destroy my college fund, just like you meant to take my house money. The college fund was for Europe, Mom said weakly. The college fund was mine. The house money was mine. My dreams, my future, my life. You gave it all to her. We thought we were helping. You were helping. You were helping her avoid consequences while I paid for all of them. I walked to my briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. You want to see what your help bought? Here's 14 years of receipts. Rehab bills, legal fees, credit card debt, medical expenses. All paid for with money that should have gone to my education, my future, my life. I spread the papers across the table. $68,000 in rehab costs, $43,000 in legal fees, $37,000 in credit card debt you paid off, $22,000 in medical bills. Stop, Dad whispered. $170,000? That's what you spent on her addiction? Know what you spent on me? Nothing, not one dime. We didn't know you needed. I needed parents. I needed support. I needed someone to believe in me instead of just expecting me to be strong enough to handle everyone else's problems. Lindsay was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 14 years of my life. What do you want from us? Mom asked. I looked around the room at my broken family. I want you to stay, all of you. I want you to do the work, real work. Family therapy, individual therapy, accountability sessions. I want you to face what you've done to each other and to me. And if we refuse, Dad asked, then you can leave, but you'll leave alone. because Lindsay's staying here until she's actually recovered, not just until you're tired of dealing with her problems." "You can't keep me here against my will," Lindsay said. "I can't, but I can make sure you understand exactly what leaving will cost you and them." I turned to my parents. "Your choice. Face the truth or lose both your daughters." They stayed. 2 weeks later, we sat in the same conference room for what Camila called our final family session. But I knew it was really my final performance. "Let's start with accountability," Camila said. "Each person will share how their actions have affected this family." Dad went first. "I was a coward. I let Bethany make all the hard decisions about the girls because I was afraid of conflict. I told myself I was keeping the peace, but really, I was just avoiding responsibility." Mom twisted her hands in her lap. "I enabled Lindsay because I was terrified of losing her. Every time she threatened to hurt herself or disappear, I gave in. I told myself I was protecting her, but I was really protecting myself from the guilt of letting her fail." "And Paisley?" Camilla prompted. "I failed Paisley completely." Mom's voice broke. "I took her strength for granted. I assumed she didn't need me because she never asked for help. I was wrong." Lindsay looked up from her tissue box. "I knew exactly what I was doing. Every crisis, every emergency call, every time I played the victim, I knew they'd choose me over Paisley. I told myself I deserved it because I was sicker, but really I was just selfish." "And now?" Camila asked. "Now I know I destroyed my sister's life because I was too weak to face my own problems." All eyes turned to me. This was my moment, the climax I'd been building toward for weeks. "I orchestrated all of this," I said quietly. "I manipulated the therapy process, violated professional ethics, and used my sister's addiction as a weapon for revenge." "Paisley?" Mom started. "No, let me finish. I told myself this was about justice, about accountability, but really I wanted to hurt you the way you'd hurt me. I wanted you to feel powerless and ignored and forgotten." "Did it work?" Dad asked quietly. I looked around the room at their broken faces. "Yes, and it feels exactly as empty as I thought it would." Camila leaned forward. "What do you want now, Paisley?" "I want to make you an offer, Lindsay." My sister looked up, wary. "Stay here and complete the program. Not as a patient, but as a staff member. Work in the kitchen, help with maintenance, assist with intake, minimum wage, shared housing, no special treatment." "Why would I do that?" "Because it's the first real job you've ever been offered. Because you'll learn what it means to earn something instead of having it given to you. Because you'll see what recovery actually looks like when you're helping other people instead of just helping yourself." "And if I say no?" "Then you leave. But you leave with nothing. No more family money, no more bailouts, no more safety net. You'll be completely on your own for the first time in your life." Lindsay was quiet for a long moment. "What about them?" She nodded toward our parents. "They're going to learn how to be parents instead of enablers. Weekly therapy sessions here for the next 6 months. They're going to figure out how to support recovery without funding addiction." "And you?" Mom asked. "I'm going to step back from the business, from this family, from trying to fix everyone else's problems." "What does that mean?" Dad asked. "It means I'm selling my share of the wellness centers. It means I'm moving across the country. It means I'm finally going to live my own life instead of cleaning up after yours." The room erupted. "You can't just leave," Mom said. "You can't abandon the business." Miles said from the doorway. I hadn't heard him come in. "You can't run away from this," Lindsay added. "Watch me." I stood up and walked to the window. I've spent 29 years being the responsible one, the strong one, the one who holds everything together. I'm done. "But we need you," Mom pleaded. "No, you need to learn how to function without me. You need to learn how to support each other instead of expecting me to support all of you." "This is revenge too," Camilla said quietly, "just a different kind." "Maybe, but it's also self-preservation." I turned back to face them. "Lindsay, what's your answer? Stay and work or leave and figure it out on your own?" She looked at our parents, then back at me. "If I stay, do I get a chance to make things right with you?" "You get a chance to make things right with yourself. What happens between us after that is up to both of us. And if I mess up, then you're fired, just like any other employee." She nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll stay." "Good." I picked up my purse. "Miles will handle the employment paperwork. Camila will coordinate the family therapy schedule. I'll be in touch about the business transition." "Where are you going?" Dad asked. "Home, to pack." "Paisley, please." Mom stood up. "Don't do this. We can work through this as a family." I paused at the door. "We're not a family. We're a collection of people who share DNA and a history of dysfunction. Maybe someday we can be more than that, but not today." "So that's it?" Lindsay asked. "You get your revenge and then you disappear?" "That's it." "What if I actually get better? What if I actually change?" "Then you'll have something to be proud of, something that's actually yours." I walked out of the conference room and didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. It felt terrifying and liberating and absolutely right. The moving truck pulled away from my new apartment in Portland just as my phone rang. I almost didn't answer when I saw it was Miles. "Before you hang up," he said quickly, "you need to hear this." "Miles, I told you." "Lindsay's been working here for 8 months. 8 months, Paisley. No drama, no crisis calls, no special treatment." I set down the box I was carrying. "Good for her. She's been promoted to intake coordinator. She's actually good at it. Clients trust her because she's been where they are." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she's outside your building right now." I walked to my window and looked down at the street. There she was, sitting on the steps of my apartment complex, looking nervous and small. How did she get my address? I may have mentioned Portland. She may have done some detective work. "Miles, just talk to her. 5 minutes." I hung up and stared down at my sister. She looked different, thinner but in a healthy way. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she was wearing jeans and a plain sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. Against my better judgment, I went downstairs. "Hi," she said when she saw me. "Hi." "Nice place, very Portland." "What do you want, Lindsay?" She held up an envelope. "I wanted to give you this." I took it but didn't open it. "What is it?" "My first 8 paychecks, minus rent and food. It's not much, but it's a start." I looked inside. $1,200 in cash. "I can't take this." "It's not charity. It's payment on a debt that's going to take me the rest of my life to pay off." "Lindsay, I know you don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. I remember everything now. Not false memories, real ones. I remember being 7 and breaking your art project, then letting you get in trouble for it. I remember being 12 and telling Mom you were the one who stole money from her purse. I remember being 16 and convincing Dad that you were lying about needing money for college applications." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know that I know. I wasn't just selfish or sick or confused. I was cruel, deliberately cruel, and I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything." "No, it doesn't. But maybe this will." She pulled out another envelope, thicker this time. "What's that?" "A business proposal. I want to buy your share of the wellness centers." I stared at her. "With what money?" "I don't have it yet, but I will. I'm going to work for it, save for it, earn it. It might take 10 years, but I'll get there." "That's ridiculous." "Is it? You built those centers from nothing. If you can do it, maybe I can too. You don't know anything about running a business. I'm learning. Camila's been teaching me about therapy protocols. Miles is showing me the financial side. I'm taking business classes online. I looked at the proposal. It was handwritten but thorough. Market analysis, payment plans, projected timelines. Why? Because those centers are your legacy and I destroyed your chance to enjoy them. Because you deserve to be bought out properly, not forced out by family drama. Because I want to prove that I can build something instead of just tearing things down. And if you fail, then I fail. But at least I'll fail trying to do something right for once. A couple walked past us, arguing loudly about rent money. Lindsay and I both turned to watch them. We used to be them, she said quietly. We were worse. Yeah, we were. I folded the proposal and put it in my pocket. I'll think about it. Really? Really. But Lindsay, if you're serious about this, you need to understand something. I won't be your safety net. I won't bail you out if you mess up. I won't even be your sister if you screw this up. I know. Do you? Because this is your last chance. Not with the business, not with mom and dad, but with me. If you relapse, if you steal, if you manipulate anyone ever again, I'm done. Forever. I understand. Good. I started to walk back toward my building, then stopped. Lindsay? Yeah? The money in the envelope. Keep it. Consider it your first business investment. Her face lit up. Paisley? Don't thank me. Just don't screw it up. I climbed the steps to my apartment and didn't look back, but I could hear her crying on the sidewalk, and for the first time in 29 years, they sounded like tears of hope instead of manipulation. My phone buzzed with a text from Theo. Dinner tomorrow? I'm in town for work. I looked around my half-unpacked apartment at the life I was finally building for myself and typed back, yes. For once, I wasn't the strong one cleaning up everyone else's mess. I was just Paisley starting over, and that felt like enough.
I have a girlfriend, so I'm heading home. Do whatever you want with the child. Mike's words cut through the room, followed by the sound of a young woman's laughter. This woman was Mike's affair partner. Of course you'll be with me, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. There's no need to compare me to such an old woman. Besides, I don't want a baby. They're just noisy and not cute at all with their wrinkled faces. Her callous words were a blow not only to me but to my daughter as well. My body trembled with rage, but I forced myself to take a deep breath and compose my thoughts. I'm done with both of you, I said, struggling to control my voice. It's too late for regrets now. Gathering what little strength I had left in my not fully recovered postpartum body, I stood up and fixed Mike with a piercing glare. Are you really okay with this? You and the child can just disappear, right? I needed his confirmation, even though I didn't want to talk to him at all. Yeah, look, Mike said, showing me the divorce papers and the birth certificate he had already signed. I've prepared everything. Please just fill out and submit the papers. I nodded in agreement. Understood. Then this is goodbye forever. Tears filled my eyes, but they were tears of relief and joy. Everything was coming to an end. I would never return to this house or to Mike again. My name is Kate, and I'm 32 years old. I work for a foreign company, though I'm currently on parental leave. Despite the official leave, I still handle work from home, so my workload hasn't changed much. My days are busy but fulfilling as I manage housework and work alone without Mike. I never imagined that life without Mike would feel more comfortable. I met Mike at a friend's wedding after party shortly after breaking up with my previous boyfriend. Feeling lonely, I quickly grew close to Mike and married him just before turning 30. As the saying goes, love is blind. It wasn't until after the wedding that his issues with womanizing and drinking became clear. He would spend 2 to 3 nights a week drinking, even though he insisted it was within his limits. I couldn't accept his infidelity so soon after our wedding. I just wanted to enjoy the sweetness of married life. When I complained, Mike was indifferent. What are you talking about? Even when we were dating, I went out drinking and to clubs. You knew I love drinking and that I'm popular with women. Mike is indeed popular with women. He's attentive, kind, and gives luxurious chocolates on birthdays. He listens sincerely to people's problems, whether they're men or women. His phone is constantly buzzing with messages from both genders, and he always retreats to his room to respond. I wish he would at least silence his phone during our time together. People often tell me how enviable my husband is and how happy I must be. Maybe I'm jealous, but I wish he would be kinder to me. His frequent drinking parties grew from a few times a week to almost every weekend. His phone was always filled with invitations, and though less frequent, there were also requests from women. Despite my confrontations and pleas for him to tone it down, he dismissed my concerns, saying the girls at the club were just being playful. His indifference made me almost give up. Even though he was often away, he did help around the house and was kind to me when he was home. This kindness somewhat balanced out my dissatisfaction with his behavior. When I became pregnant, I was excited and wanted to spend more time together. I eagerly told Mike about the baby, but his reaction was less than enthusiastic. "Are you sure it's mine?" he asked, his response far from the joy I expected. I was taken aback by his lack of happiness and the doubt in his voice. "Mike, are you happy? I didn't expect to get pregnant so soon either, but I'm excited about the baby." I tried to mask my unease when I told him no, I didn't mean that. "Of course I'm happy." Mike's response seemed to be an attempt to cover up his earlier comment. He assumed I wouldn't go out or get involved with other men, a notion I found troubling. Despite my doubts, I chose to view his reassurances positively, believing he trusted me to be serious and avoiding further confrontation. In the days that followed, Mike seemed to come to terms with my pregnancy. He became more attentive to my needs and supported me more eagerly with household chores. His help was invaluable, especially as I struggled with morning sickness. However, his nights out and drinking sessions continued unabated. This growing disconnect between us made me feel a rift in our relationship. I had read that women transition to motherhood as soon as they become pregnant, while men only become fathers after the child is born. Perhaps this was true for Mike as well. I optimistically hoped that once the baby arrived, he would naturally reduce his outings and focus more on our family. As my pregnancy progressed, I adjusted to remote work, creating a more comfortable work environment at home. With morning sickness subsiding, I resumed managing both housework and work. However, as my belly grew, my movements slowed, and I found it harder to keep up with everything. Mike used this as an excuse to go out even more frequently, saying he didn't want to burden me at home. Though it was easier for me to choose meals without his input, the situation felt different with a baby on the way. I wanted to have a serious conversation, but I avoided bringing up early marital issues and turned a blind eye to the traces of women's perfume and messages from women on his social media. Perhaps I was just convincing myself that it was harmless fun, trying to stay optimistic that my fun-loving husband would become a devoted father. In retrospect, Mike might have been mocking my lack of suspicion. He could have been messaging his affair partner right in front of me without me noticing. Then one day, the neighbor lady mentioned, "I saw your husband walking with a young woman recently. Do you have a sister-in-law?" I replied, "Yes, my husband has a sister, but she looked very young. I'm on good terms with her, and we often communicate via social media. We exchanged messages just yesterday, and she didn't mention meeting Mike." I realized with a jolt that I don't have any sisters or brothers. Is he cheating on me? I had always thought Mike was simply going out as usual, but a nagging doubt began to surface. What if he was pretending to socialize but was actually seeing another woman? This was the first time I had such suspicions, and I couldn't entirely dismiss the possibility. That night, I made several phone calls, but Mike came home late as usual. Suppressing my urge to question him, I said, "The baby could come any day now. I'd appreciate it if you could spend more time at home. My stomach has been feeling tight lately." I wanted him to be prepared for when labor started and, more importantly, to be there to support me. The thought of Mike, reeking of alcohol, being nearby during such a critical time filled me with embarrassment and distress. Mike responded quietly, "I understand," and went straight to the bathroom. He finished his bath quickly and headed to bed. We didn't get a chance to talk, and I sighed in frustration. Deciding to go to bed myself, I started walking down the corridor to the bedroom when I suddenly felt a warm liquid running down my leg. At first, I didn't understand what was happening, but then I realized my water had broken. I tried to wake Mike, who was deeply asleep from drinking, but he didn't stir. Half crying, I called a taxi and made my way to the hospital alone in the middle of the night. The next morning, I received a message from Mike, but I was too overwhelmed to respond. It wasn't until later that night, after successfully giving birth, that I managed to reply. Congratulations, you did well. I have a sudden business trip starting tomorrow, so I can't come to see you. Sorry, can you ask your mother for help? His words left me stunned. There was no trace of joy about the birth of his child, and I had hoped he would at least come to see me, even if it was late. Exhausted from childbirth and disheartened by Mike's response, I tried to find solace in looking at my sleeping daughter. My mother would be arriving soon to visit her newborn grandchild, and I planned to discuss everything with her. 4 days later, after my daughter Lily and I were discharged from the hospital, Mike's messages continued to be casual, likely due to his usual social activities. I asked my mother to pick us up and bring us home. As we arrived at the condominium, the concierge congratulated me on Lily's birth, and it was comforting to hear those words. But as I opened the door to our home, I was startled by the sound of a young woman's voice from inside. I nearly dropped Lily in my arms, and my mother looked just as shocked. Foreseeing a worsening situation, I handed Lily to my mother and asked her to wait at the entrance. With heavy steps, I walked down the hallway and called out, "I'm home." "Mike, what's going on?" "I don't even need to ask," I said, flinging open the bedroom door. Mike and his mistress were taken aback, their shock evident. "Why are you back? You were supposed to be discharged tomorrow," Mike exclaimed, trying to deflect. "What?" I sent numerous messages and called several times. "You turned off your phone and clearly enjoyed yourself," I retorted, the pain of seeing Mike with another woman hitting me hard. I had partly anticipated this scene after the neighbor's comment, but it was still gut-wrenching to witness. Feeling nauseous, I heard Mike speak coldly. "I have a girlfriend, so I'm heading home. Do whatever you want with the child." The young woman's laughter rang out. "Mike, you'll be with me, right?" she said with a dismissive tone. "Of course. There's no need to compare me to such an old woman. Besides, I don't want a baby. They're just noisy and not cute with their wrinkled faces." Her cruel words stung deeply, attacking both me and my baby, Lily. My body trembled with anger, but I took a deep breath to steady myself. "I'm done with both of you. It's too late for regrets now." Summoning all the strength I could muster from my still recovering postpartum body, I glared at Mike. "Are you really okay with this? It's fine for me and the child to disappear, right?" I asked, needing him to confirm his intentions one last time. "Yeah, look," Mike said. "I've prepared the divorce papers and the birth certification. I've already signed them. So Kate, please fill them out and submit them." I nodded, responding, "Understood. Then this is goodbye forever." Tears welled up in my eyes, but they were tears of relief. Everything was finally ending. I would never return to this house or to Mike again. After that, Lily and I temporarily moved in with my mother. She reassured me, saying, "Consider it a homecoming after the birth. Don't worry about it," allowing me to rely on her comfortably. Financially, I had no concerns. I was receiving a steady paycheck from my company and was in a position to take a proper maternity leave. According to my mother, my father would soon come to visit Lily. My parents typically live in France and only stay in this house when they have business in Japan. Gradually, I was getting used to taking care of Lily and began to physically recover. It was time to proceed with the divorce proceedings. In truth, I had already been preparing for this, moving my belongings out gradually before giving birth. So there wasn't much left to do. I had consulted with a lawyer several times to ensure my position was secure, and I was timing my contact with Mike. When he finally called, his confusion was palpable. "What's this?" "I was told to leave the house," he said. "Of course," I responded calmly. "That house is property of the company I work for. If I'm not living there, it's only natural for you to leave." "I work for a foreign real estate company," Mike said. "I didn't know it was your company's property. We looked at several apartments with a real estate agent, but he must not have realized it was connected to your company." "I'm sorry I didn't make it clear," I explained. "The property is owned by our company, so it was cheaper for me to rent. Normally, the rent for that place would be over $1,300 a month." I heard a surprised gasp from Mike's end. $1,300? That's a lie, he almost screeched. "It's no lie," I said. As an employee, I only paid $1,100 a month, including utilities, which was automatically deducted from my paycheck. But now that has stopped. What are you talking about? Came a voice that clearly belonged to his mistress. It seemed she had assumed Mike was covering all the rent and expenses. She must have been shocked to learn that their current lifestyle was dependent on me. Wait a minute, Mike said. If I had to pay that much in rent, my salary won't be enough. That's right, I replied. I forgot to mention that I'm also storing the belongings you left behind. You owe $3,300 for storage. If you don't retrieve them soon, additional charges will apply, and you'll have to keep paying until everything is moved out. I wondered if Mike had always been so petty. I felt a pang of disheartenment. I had only packed clothes and essentials for Lily and me, but I couldn't move all the larger items and furniture. All right, I'll be there soon, I said, and hung up. After explaining the situation to my mother, we decided to head to my previous residence. Though it was inconvenient, my mother and Lily came with me. After contacting the lawyer and coordinating with several parties, we set off from my mother's house. It took us several minutes to reach the old house. I pressed the intercom, and an irritated Mike answered, "Already? Come in quickly." When my mother and I entered, the state of the house was appalling. Though I wasn't the best at tidying up, I had cleaned thoroughly in preparation for the baby. In just 1 month, it had deteriorated into a complete mess. Empty beer cans, plastic bottles, takeout containers, and various bags overflowed from the trash can. Despite having a dishwasher, dirty dishes were piled up in the sink. I'm not great at cleaning, but I did my best, I said coldly. Mike's suggestion that I should return was ridiculous. I'm not the one who left. You were told to leave. The lawyer and movers arrived shortly after. Thank you for coming, I said. Movers, please remove most of the appliances. Most of the electronics in this house were purchased by me. Mike only had old items from his student days, which I gradually replaced. Mike panicked as he watched the appliances being removed. What the hell? How am I supposed to live now? The mistress emerged from the back room, yawning and glancing around as if she had just woken up. Actually, most of the things in this house were bought by me, I told her. Mike only covered living expenses. The appliances and other costs were all from my own pocket. In other words, they belong to me. You two will need to buy your own from now on. I smiled at the mistress. The lawyer will explain everything in detail, but I will be claiming alimony from both Mike and you. If I secure custody of our child, there will be no division of assets. I'll leave the balance of our joint account to Mike. Mike and his mistress exchanged a hopeful glance, but their smiles faded as the lawyer began speaking. I will be claiming $200,000 from Mike and $67,000 from Jane, the lawyer said. This is in addition to the child support claim. The usage fees for the appliances Kate mentioned will be offset against these claims. Their faces went pale as they listened. I added, also, you're behind on rent and utilities, right? Expect an eviction notice soon. Water, electricity, and gas might be cut off too. And of course, you'll need to cover your own moving expenses. The sudden realization of paying alimony and approximately $3,000 in rent and utilities visibly shocked them. They began arguing about who would cover the costs. Shortly after I began suspecting my husband's affair, I hired a detective agency to investigate his actions. It was an incredibly difficult time, especially being pregnant. The shock hit me hard, and I even thought it might have caused my water to break. I didn't have the time or energy to investigate myself, but I couldn't remain passive. During my hospital stay after giving birth, I called the concierge of our apartment building to inquire about Mike. They reluctantly confirmed seeing him return home with another woman several times. Next, I requested my company to review the security camera footage, which clearly showed Mike and the woman entering the elevator together. Additionally, the detective agency had obtained photos of them entering a hotel. Their escape routes were sealed. I was simply waiting for the right moment to confront Mike. When I returned with Lily and saw them blatantly together, I knew it was time to take decisive action. My belongings were being moved out one by one, while Mike and his mistress argued loudly. Lily, my mother, and I sat on the sofa, which was scheduled to be moved out last. Suddenly, the door burst open and a large figure collided with Mike, sending him sprawling across the room. Shocked, we watched as the large man threw Mike across the room again. What's going on? Mike shouted as he struggled to get up, only to be met with a loud reprimand from the large man. It was my father, followed by my brother. Both were tall and robust, resembling bears. My biological father had died in an accident shortly after I was born. My mother, who had been involved in the family real estate business, met my current father, a French man, during a business trip to France. They married when I was in middle school. My father, a former football player, is a large and passionate man. Though it took me a while to warm up to him as a child, it was clear he deeply loved my mother, so I wholeheartedly supported their marriage. My half-brother Mark, who usually lives in France, had come with my father. I hadn't seen him since I got married, so this unexpected reunion was a pleasant surprise. Watching my father and brother scold Mike angrily in French was a sight to behold. Mike looked visibly frightened, sweating and pale, though he likely didn't understand the French words being hurled at him. The mistress, attempting to sneak out of the house, was caught by my mother and brought back. Mike tried to speak, but my father and Mark drowned him out with their shouting. Then my in-laws arrived. I had contacted them earlier, and they had been eagerly anticipating meeting Lily. Learning about their son's actions for the first time, they were furious. The joy of meeting their grandchild was overshadowed by their disappointment in Mike's behavior. "Mike, what are you doing?" my father-in-law demanded, pushing Mike's head to the floor. "We were looking forward to meeting our grandchild, and here you are, living with an affair partner. We are so disappointed in you." My mother-in-law looked as though she might collapse from shock. I felt a sense of accomplishment. "Mike, it's okay now. I have Lily, and she gives me hope and a future. Just make sure you pay the alimony and child support. You can stay in this house if you can cover the rent." The shock of discovering the affair had been overwhelming, both mentally and physically, but now things were different. I had a child to protect, and I decided it was time to let go of my hatred and anger. It wasn't something I wanted to show Lily. Having said what I needed to, and with my father and Mark having dealt with Mike, I resolved to move on. Sensing my resolve, my father and Mark supported me as we left the apartment with Lily and my mother. Eventually, I learned that Mike had to move out of the luxury apartment and now lived in a regular one. The mistress left him, apparently only interested in the luxury lifestyle. When Mike asked her to move with him to a more modest apartment, she reportedly said, "If you don't have money, our relationship is over," and left. It seemed her interests had been entirely dependent on his wealth. I received apology letters from her parents, and I told them that as long as the alimony was paid, the matter would be considered closed. Though they expressed their gratitude, I never received a direct apology from the mistress herself. This only reinforced my criticism of the younger generation's attitudes. Mike's behavior at work changed drastically. Once popular and always surrounded by colleagues, he now found himself isolated, with no one approaching him for advice. Even if he were invited out for drinks, his financial obligations for alimony and child support likely left him no room for leisure. Having lived freely and carelessly before, he now had to work diligently to meet his responsibilities. I decided to move to France with Lily. Though staying in Japan at my mother's house would have been fine, my father invited us to France. I can work remotely, and Lily can grow up in a natural and enriching environment, picking up French and experiencing a wide range of opportunities. As for me, I plan to refresh myself physically and mentally at my father's house while carefully considering my future. I look forward to enjoying another day at the park with Lily. Hi, I'm Safia, a 29-year-old graphic designer who's been trying to navigate the complex world of marriage and family life for the past 3 years. Before I share my story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life tales full of unexpected twists. Now, let me take you through the heartaches that unfolded just before what was supposed to be a dream vacation. We had been eagerly anticipating this trip for months, a family getaway to Hawaii, the kind of paradise you only see in glossy travel magazines, promising breathtaking sunsets and soothing ocean waves. But as the morning light filtered into the room, it revealed a stark contrast to the silence that had settled over the house. Something was wrong. The usual pre-trip commotion, James and his parents bustling about, the clatter of breakfast dishes, was missing. Instead, there was only an eerie, unsettling stillness. I grabbed my phone, the time glaring back at me, and a wave of panic surged through my stomach. I had overslept. But where was everyone? I hurried downstairs, the stillness of the house growing heavier with each step. Then I saw it, a note casually left on the kitchen counter. Didn't want to wake you. You seem tired. We'll see you when we get back. My hands shook as I gripped the note. James's words echoed in my mind, an excuse wrapped in the guise of thoughtfulness. Confusion and hurt swirled within me as I dialed his number, each ring dragging on painfully until his voice finally answered. Hey, you're awake, James greeted me, his tone almost too casual. We thought it'd be best to let you rest. The flight was smooth and the weather here is amazing. You would have loved it. How could you leave without even waking me? We planned this trip together. James sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of the ocean between us. Sophia, we just thought you needed the sleep. Mom suggested it might be best to let you rest. And that's when it all fell into place. The subtle comments, the coolness in his parents' demeanor, the whispered conversations they thought I couldn't hear. This wasn't just James's decision, it was a collective choice. They never truly intended for me to be part of their family, not really. I needed to be there with you, with all of you. This trip mattered to me too, James. It's not just about missing a vacation, it's about being shut out of our family's life. There was a pause, the kind that lingers just long enough to let you know that the words coming next won't fix anything. I'm sorry you feel that way, Sophia. We'll talk when I get back, okay? Just try to enjoy the time at home. I love you. The line went dead, and so did something between us. As I stood in the silence of what used to be our shared home, I felt a resolve solidify within me. This wasn't just a wake-up call, it was a turning point. The James I thought I knew would never have left me behind, but the harsh reality was that he did, and with disturbing ease. The stillness of the house now felt suffocating, heavy with revelations that seemed to seep from every corner. As I moved from room to room, each space seemed to echo with memories, some once sweet, now bitterly tainted by the clarity of hindsight. As I put the picture back in place, my phone buzzed. It was Melissa, my best friend, her name flashing on the screen like a beacon of support. Sophia, how are you holding up? I just heard about what happened. Her voice was a comforting thread of normalcy, but as we spoke, I found my eyes opening even wider. Melissa, it's like I've been in the dark all this time. All these little moments are making sense now. Like last Christmas, James and his parents, they were always subtly pushing me out, weren't they? There was a pause, thick with unspoken understanding. Sophia, I didn't want to say anything before, but yes, I noticed it too. I thought it was just family dynamics, nothing more. My voice, edged with anger and sadness, cut through. I think you've been too good for them from the start. What are you going to do now? I moved to the window, watching a couple across the street laughing together as they walked their dog, so normal, so united. Turning away, I felt the sharp sting of isolation. I'm not sure yet, Melissa, but being left behind, it's more than a slap in the face. It's a wake-up call. Maybe it's time I start making decisions for myself, decisions that don't involve James. Good for you, Sophia. You deserve happiness, not this endless questioning of your place. As the call ended, my resolve solidified. I grabbed my laptop and began typing, not just jotting down thoughts or keeping a diary, but creating a list. A list of every slight, every dismissive comment, every instance where James or his parents made me feel insignificant. Later, as the dusk bathed the sky in shades of fading hope, my sister Anna called. She had always been my confidant, and now, more than ever, I needed her fierce, protective spirit. Sophia. Sophia, Mom told me what happened with James. Are you okay? Her voice carried a blend of concern and anger, reflecting the turmoil I felt inside. No, Anna, I'm not okay. But maybe that's a good thing. I'm finally seeing things clearly. I can't keep being the only one fighting to make this work. It feels like I've been competing for James's affection against his own family. Remember last Easter when you hosted dinner and Elaine insisted on redoing the table settings? It was like she needed to assert her control, even in your own home. Exactly. It's always been them first and me a distant second. I felt like an outsider in my own marriage. Whatever you choose to do, we're here for you. We all see you for who you are and love you. That night, I went to bed with a notebook by my side. The pages quickly filled with plans and ideas. No longer just dreams, but concrete steps to take. Tomorrow. Tonight, I allowed myself to fully embrace the weight of my heartache, using it as the foundation for the strength I would need to rebuild. As the morning light filtered through the blinds, it cast long shadows across the room, where I sat amidst a sea of scattered papers and notes. Each document was a piece of the puzzle that was my marriage: emails, texts, and photos, laid out as evidence of the many ways I had been sidelined. My phone rested beside me, displaying the contact information for a recommended divorce attorney. It was time to move forward. Taking a deep breath, I dialed the number. The line clicked, and a calm, professional voice answered. "Good morning, you've reached Carter and Associates. How can we assist you today?" "Hi, I'm Sophia. A friend referred me to you. I'd like to discuss my options for a divorce." "Of course, Sophia. I'm Alyssa, one of the attorneys here. Let's start by discussing your situation in detail." The conversation that followed was both surreal and empowering. Alyssa's questions were sharp and to the point, cutting through the haze of my emotions to focus on the facts. She listened attentively as I described the events leading up to and following the trip that James and his parents took without me. "From what you've shared, it seems you've been facing not only personal betrayal but also a pattern of exclusion and possibly emotional manipulation," Alyssa observed. "Documenting everything was a wise decision. It will be crucial in building a strong case for you." After the call, I was filled with a mix of nervousness and determination. Thinking about divorce was one thing, but initiating the process felt like a major step forward. There was no turning back now. I needed support, and I knew exactly who to reach out to next. Laura, a close friend who had stood by me during the toughest times of my marriage, picked up on the second ring. "Sophia, hi, how are you holding up?" "Not great, Laura, but I'm taking action. I spoke with a divorce attorney." "Wow, Sophia, that's a big step. How are you feeling about it?" "Determined, I suppose." "Laura, can I ask for your help? I might need a statement from someone who's witnessed what I've been through." "Absolutely, Sophia. I've seen how they've treated you, especially James's mom. It always seemed like you could never do anything right in her eyes." "Thank you, Laura. Your support means a lot to me." Energized by my friend's support and the clear direction from the attorney, I spent the next few hours organizing my documents and detailing everything that had transpired. While I worked, my sister Anna texted, her words offering comfort to my weary heart. "Just checking in, sis. You're making the right choice. We're all behind you." By evening, I had assembled a detailed file: texts, emails, and painful reminders, all laid out, revealing my life's raw truths. Instead of feeling exposed, I felt strengthened. Each piece of evidence marked a move away from my past and toward a fresh start. The sound of the front door opening reverberated through the house like the harbinger of a storm. My heart raced, not with fear, but with a firm resolve. As James walked in, his face etched with travel fatigue, our eyes locked. The usual pleasantries faltered, hanging awkwardly between us. "Sophia, you seem different." "I am different, James. We need to talk." His brows furrowed in confusion as he set down his bags. "Talk about what? What's going on?" I gestured toward the living room, where I had spread out the documents and photos, evidence of every moment I felt pushed aside by him and his parents. "James, this isn't just about your trip to Hawaii without me. It's about every instance where you prioritized them over me, every time I was made to feel like an outsider in my own marriage." He looked at the documents, his expression shifting from confusion to worry. "I don't understand. Are these divorce papers?" "Yes, they are. I've consulted a lawyer, James. I can't do this anymore." His voice wavered, laced with a mix of anger and desperation. "Sophia, why are you doing this? We can talk it out, go to counseling. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I shook my head, unwavering. "It's not out of proportion to want to feel valued, James. Your mother's constant interference and your silent complicity with her, it's suffocating. I'm not just an extension of your family. I'm your wife, or at least I was supposed to be. But I love you, Sophia. I just thought." "Thought what?" "That I'd stay silent and accept the scraps of attention you and your parents decided to give me. No, James, this ends now." He began to pace, running his hands through his hair in a gesture of frustration and disbelief. "So that's it? You're just going to throw away everything we've built because of a few misunderstandings?" "They're not misunderstandings, James. They're part of a pattern, a series of choices you've consistently made. And now, I'm making my own." His expression hardened as he glanced at the paperwork once more. "If this is what you want, I won't stand in your way. But I think you're making a mistake." "I've made mistakes before," I said, my voice steady. Staying any longer would be another one. As he sifted through the papers, his movements slow and deliberate, the gravity of our fractured relationship became unmistakable. This confrontation was painful but necessary, a decisive moment that marked the end of my resignation and the beginning of a new path for me. James, this isn't just about our relationship. It's about me reclaiming my self-worth. You might not understand it now, but I hope you will one day. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement of the chasm that had grown too wide to cross. As he collected the papers, a look of bitter acceptance in his eyes, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. This confrontation, though heart-wrenching, provided the closure I needed, the crucial step towards reclaiming my voice and my life. The early morning sun bathed the boxes stacked in my living room in a warm glow, each one meticulously labeled: books, art supplies, memories. Today wasn't just another day. It marked the beginning of my new life in a new city, a concrete step toward the future I had chosen for myself. As I taped up another box, my phone rang. It was Rachel, a friend who had relocated to the same city last year. Her voice was brimming with enthusiasm. "Sophia, I heard the big news. Welcome to the neighborhood. When do you get here?" "Hi, Rachel. I'm actually packing up the van today. I should arrive by tomorrow evening. I'm so ready for this fresh start." "That's fantastic. You're going to love it here. And guess what? I've already planned a little get-together this weekend. Consider yourself invited." Laughter bubbled up inside me, light and freeing. "That sounds wonderful, Rachel. I really appreciate it. It's been a while since I've looked forward to something like this." After ending the call, I returned to packing, but it wasn't long before another call came through. This time, it was the HR manager from the design firm where I had recently been offered a job. "Sophia, good morning. I'm calling to confirm your start date with us. We're all excited to have you on board. How does Monday sound for coming in and getting settled?" "That sounds perfect," I replied, a smile spreading across my face. "I'm really looking forward to it. It feels like just the change I needed." "Fantastic. We're confident you'll bring a lot of fresh ideas and energy to the team. See you Monday, Sophia." As I hung up, a wave of accomplishment washed over me. Everything was falling into place, not by chance, but by my own choice. I paused to enjoy the stillness of the morning, reflecting on the journey that had led me here. With the final box sealed, I took one last look around the house that had been my world, filled with both joy and sorrow. Now it stood empty, a blank canvas waiting for its next chapter. But I was ready to create something new, something entirely my own. And with that, we reached the end of Sophia's journey toward reclaiming her life and embracing a new beginning. What do you think was the pivotal moment that set Sophia on her path to independence? Was it the initial betrayal or her decisive move to take legal action? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know which moment resonated with you the most. If you enjoyed Sophia's story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Your support helps us bring more stories like Sophia's to you. Hello, I'm Jenna. Before we dive into today's story, if you enjoy real-life dramas and want to hear more, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let's jump right in. Our story unfolds in the vibrant heart of a busy town, where David and I had invested everything into creating not just a house, but our dream home. On a sunny Saturday morning, the kids were scattered across the living room, their laughter filling the air as the aroma of pancakes drifted from the kitchen. "David, could you lend me a hand with the syrup?" I called out while flipping the final pancake. David entered with a warm smile, saying, "Absolutely, love. You've really outdone yourself with breakfast this time." As we gathered around the table, the morning sun bathed the kitchen counter, illuminating the faces of our four wonderful kids. Our home was a true sanctuary, each room reflecting our journey together. From the hand-painted murals in the kids' rooms to the cozy reading nook by the fireplace where David and I often relaxed, every detail was imbued with love and care. Later that day, while the kids were playing outside, my phone rang. It was Samantha, my sister-in-law, and her voice trembled with distress. "Hey Jenna, I'm in a tough spot. After the divorce, we got the house and the kids, and I'm left with nowhere to go." My heart ached for her. Samantha and her children had already endured so much. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Sam. Why don't you and the kids come over tonight? We can talk it through and figure something out." "Thanks, Jenna. I really appreciate it," Samantha said, her voice carrying a hint of hope. That evening, as David and I readied the guest room, I couldn't shake my worry. Samantha's predicament was serious, and while I knew we needed to help, I couldn't ignore the nagging concerns about what this might mean for us. When they arrived, the house buzzed with energy as the kids eagerly greeted their cousins, filling the space with joyful noise and chaos. Samantha, though visibly exhausted, managed a weary smile. "It's so good to see you all. Thank you for having us." "Of course, Sam. Let's sit down after dinner and sort everything out," David said, guiding everyone into the dining room. The meal was filled with light conversation, though the underlying tension was unmistakable. After the kids settled in with a movie, the adults gathered in the living room. Samantha took a deep breath, preparing to share her burdens. "I don't know how to say this, but I need more than just a temporary place to stay. The kids and I need a home," Samantha said, her voice heavy with desperation. Her words lingered in the air, carrying a weight of urgency. David gently squeezed my hand under the blanket, his eyes reflecting concern. "We knew our home was a cherished sanctuary, but it was hard to turn away family in need. We'll find a solution, Sam. For now, you and the kids can stay in the playroom and guest room as long as you need," I said, hoping to offer some solace. Samantha's face fell, her disappointment evident. "I was hoping you might consider something more permanent." David and I exchanged a meaningful look, the weight of Samantha's request settling heavily between us. Our home had been carefully crafted for our children's future, every detail meticulously planned and built with them in mind. "Let's discuss this with everyone and see if there's a way to help without disrupting our plans too much," David suggested, his peacemaking nature evident. Samantha nodded in agreement, though her eyes betrayed her anxiety about the uncertain future. As they departed later that night, the house felt unusually cold, the silence punctuated by the echo of looming decisions. That evening, as David and I lay in bed with the moon casting shadows across the room, we were acutely aware that our lives were on the brink of change. The question lingered: how much were we willing to sacrifice? Our dream, built on years of love and hard work, was at risk, but so was the well-being of family. The upcoming family meeting would be pivotal, potentially tipping the balance in one direction or another. The following Tuesday evening was circled on our calendar, not for a cheerful family event, but for a meeting that felt more like a tribunal. As David and I drove to my mother-in-law Martha's house, the tension in the car was palpable. "No matter what happens tonight, we face it together, right?" David said, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. "Absolutely," I answered, though I struggled to conceal the tight knot of anxiety in my stomach. When we arrived at Martha's, the usual warmth and cheer were replaced by an uneasy silence. We were led into the living room, where the entire family was already assembled, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. Martha took center stage, her tone somber and serious. "Thank you all for being here. We're gathered because, as a family, it's important that we support each other during times of crisis." Martha paused, her eyes briefly resting on Samantha, who was sitting with a tissue in hand, her eyes red and swollen. "Samantha and her children are facing the threat of homelessness, and it's only right that those of us who are able should step up," Martha continued, her gaze fixed firmly on David and me. I felt David's hand tighten around mine beneath the table. "Martha, we understand the gravity of the situation and we empathize," David said, his voice calm and measured. "We've already extended an offer for Samantha to stay in our playroom and guest room on a temporary basis." Martha's lips pressed into a tight line. "That's a good start, but it doesn't fully address the issue. Jenna, David, your home is quite spacious, much more than you actually need. It would make sense for Samantha and her children to move into your place. You could easily find a new location to build another home." I was taken aback by her boldness. "Martha, our home isn't merely a structure. It represents the foundation for our children's future. Every part of it holds love and cherished memories. We can't just give it up and start anew," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. "But think about the kids," Samantha added, her voice trembling. "Where will my children go if not with family?" The room erupted into a flurry of opinions, with some relatives nodding in agreement with Samantha while others shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. David rose to his feet, his commanding presence quieting the room. "This isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about our children's stability. We've invested so much into building our home, not just for ourselves, but as a legacy for our kids. We cannot and will not jeopardize their sense of security. Our offer remains: Samantha can stay with us temporarily, but our home is not up for negotiation. Martha's expression hardened with frustration. David, sometimes sacrifices are necessary for the greater good of the family. Offering temporary refuge is our way of making those sacrifices. I firmly stated, asking us to give up our home isn't a sacrifice, it's an imposition. The room's tension reached a boiling point as Martha leaned forward. You're being selfish. Think about your nieces and nephews. David's resolve remained unshaken. Being a good uncle doesn't mean giving away our children's home. We need to find a better solution. The meeting ended with no resolution, leaving the family divide deeper than before. As David and I walked to our car, the weight of the evening's accusations was heavy between us. Yet, amidst the tension, we felt a strong sense of pride in our unity and determination. We had stood our ground, not just for the physical structure of our home, but for the sanctuary it represented for our family. As we drove back home, the lights of our house greeted us warmly in the darkness. It was more than just a building. It was a testament to our love and commitment, a home we were determined to protect, no matter the pressure from those who were meant to support us the most. The days after the family meeting were among the toughest we'd ever face. The phone rang incessantly, each call bringing another family member's blame or plea for us to reconsider. Our decision had triggered a wave of tension that spread through the family like wildfire. Text messages accumulated, each one more pleading or accusatory than the last. You're turning your back on family in their time of need, one message read. Another was more direct. How can you be so cold? The barrage was unrelenting, and with every message, the sanctuary that our home had always provided seemed to shrink under the weight of the family's disapproval. The impact of the situation extended beyond David and me. It started to affect our kids as well. One day, our oldest, Ella, came home from school with a puzzled expression. Mom, why did Aunt Carol say we have too many rooms and should share with cousin Lily? She asked, clearly struggling to make sense of the adult conversations she had overheard. I knelt down and gently took her hands in mine. Sometimes adults think that sharing is the solution to problems, sweetie, but Dad and I believe that it's important for our home to remain stable and safe for you and your siblings, I explained, hoping to shield her from the ongoing family drama. As the days stretched into a week, a call from a friend offered an unexpected ray of hope. Rachel, a fellow PTA member and a real estate agent, had heard about Samantha's predicament through mutual acquaintances. I'm not sure if you're aware, Jenna, but there are several rental homes in your area that Samantha could afford with her child support and alimony. I'd be happy to help her find one, she suggested during a coffee chat one afternoon. The suggestion was a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. That's really helpful, Rachel. Thank you, I replied, my mind racing. Why hadn't Samantha or Martha considered these alternatives? Were they so focused on our home that they overlooked other viable options? Fueled by this new information, David and I decided to investigate further. A few discreet calls confirmed Rachel's claims. There were indeed suitable rental properties available that would allow Samantha to live independently without displacing anyone. This revelation was a mixed blessing. On one hand, it provided a potential way out of the constant pressure. On the other, it reinforced a suspicion that Martha and Samantha's emotional appeals might have been more about convenience than genuine need. With this knowledge in hand, we prepared for the upcoming family gathering, a birthday party for David's cousin. We anticipated a charged atmosphere but felt reassured knowing we had a solid alternative solution to present. As we arrived at the party, the cold reception was unmistakable. Whispers hushed as we passed by, and some family members visibly turned away. The divide was evident, those who supported our decision to safeguard our home versus those who had been swayed by Martha's portrayal of our supposed selfishness. Amid the forced smiles and awkward silences, David squeezed my hand. No matter what, we have the truth on our side, he whispered, bolstering my resolve to face the family. We were prepared to share what we had discovered and hopeful to bridge the gaps, not through sacrifice, but by fostering understanding and respecting each family member's autonomy. The pivotal moment arrived unexpectedly, a revelation that shifted the course of our family dilemma. One quiet evening, while sifting through our usual influx of emails, I noticed a new listing in a local community bulletin. It was an advertisement for a reasonably priced 4-bedroom rental house, well within Samantha's budget. This discovery was the breakthrough we needed to counter the claim that there were no other viable options for her. Armed with this information, David and I realized it was time to address the family with concrete facts rather than emotions. We decided to present our findings at Grander Ralph's upcoming anniversary celebration, where the entire family would be gathered. It would be our opportunity to clarify the situation and hopefully repair some of the rifts that had developed. On the day of the anniversary, the family atmosphere was thick with unspoken tensions as everyone arrived. Despite the festive decorations and the celebratory mood, the recent conflicts lingered in the air. After the meal, as the laughter subsided and conversations grew more personal, David and I sensed that it was our chance to address the issue. I stood up and cleared my throat, drawing the room's attention. I want to thank everyone for coming together today. We need to address an important matter: Samantha's housing situation. The room fell silent, all eyes focusing on us. We all want what's best for Samantha and her kids. Recently, we discovered several affordable housing options that hadn't been considered. David passed around a tablet displaying the rental listings, which circulated through the family. Each member stopped to review the details, which clearly showed that Samantha had viable alternatives to moving into our home. "Why wasn't this mentioned earlier?" Uncle Joe asked, directing his question at Samantha, who looked visibly surprised. I didn't know these options were available," Samantha replied, her voice faltering. David took the floor, his tone both firm and empathetic. "It's evident that there are other solutions we haven't fully explored. We need to investigate these options thoroughly." The challenge to the prevailing narrative was clear as family members absorbed the new information. The earlier accusations against us started to lose their impact. I added, "We've been painted as unsympathetic, but that was never our intention. We offered temporary shelter, and now we're presenting a long-term solution that doesn't disrupt our children's lives." Martha, clearly uncomfortable, finally spoke up. "I suppose we may have jumped to conclusions. It's important that we make decisions based on complete information." I responded, aiming to bridge the gap created by earlier demands. The focus of the conversation shifted from blame to finding solutions. Family members began discussing how they could help Samantha move into one of the listed homes. The tension that had clouded the gathering started to dissolve, replaced by a more cooperative atmosphere. As the party came to a close, a sense of collective relief emerged. Apologies and constructive suggestions flowed, particularly from those who had been most critical. Before leaving, Martha approached us with a softer expression. "I'm sorry for the pressure we put on you. It seems there were better options all along." Driving home, David and I felt a profound sense of relief. Our decision not only safeguarded our home but also helped steer the family towards a more supportive and understanding dynamic. The house, once a battleground, was again a sanctuary. As we tucked our kids into bed that night, the peace we felt was all the sweeter for the trials we had faced. In the weeks following Grandma Ruth's anniversary party, the family dynamic shifted subtly yet significantly. The fallout from the revelation of alternative housing options had cooled the intense demands and sparked a realization among those who had been quickest to judge. Martha, in particular, faced the uncomfortable truth that her actions had been based more on assumptions than on facts. At family gatherings, she often kept to herself or offered conciliatory gestures toward David and me, her discomfort evident. Support came from unexpected places. Aunt Mary and Uncle Joe, who had been quiet throughout the ordeal, reached out to commend David and me for how we managed the situation. "Jenna, you really showed us what it means to stand firm with grace," Aunt Mary said one afternoon. Their newfound support was a welcome relief, soothing some of the wounds left by the conflict. Meanwhile, Samantha found a suitable home from the listings Rachel had provided and moved in with her children soon after. The community rallied around her, helping her settle in and transforming what could have been a lingering issue into a powerful example of communal support and cooperation. At home, the sense of peace was almost tangible. David and I often found ourselves savoring the quiet after the kids were tucked in, enjoying the calm that had replaced the earlier tension. Our house, once the epicenter of family conflict, had reverted to being our beloved sanctuary. Watching our children play in the backyard, their laughter carried on the evening breeze, filled me with a profound sense of pride and relief. We had weathered the storm, safeguarded our home, and emerged stronger. Our home was no longer just a physical space but a symbol of our love, resilience, and the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it means standing against family. Now that our story has come to a close, I'd love to hear from you. Would you have made the same choices if you were in our shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Housework and child rearing are the wife's responsibilities. By pushing all of that onto your husband, you're failing as a wife, my mother-in-law declared, unable to accept that her son was involved in household chores and parenting. She added, "Don't forget how your life is being supported. It's thanks to your husband that this household runs smoothly. Aren't you lacking in gratitude?" The other day, she even remarked, "I did the laundry. I'm not just a helper around the house." My husband remained silent, never once defending me. Instead, he warned, "If I ever wanted a divorce, you and our daughter wouldn't manage on your own. Understand that." Feeling harshly criticized and belittled by both my husband and mother-in-law, I reached my breaking point. I'm Katie, a 30-year-old office worker. I met my husband Gary in college and we started dating soon after. As we both transitioned into working adults, marriage seemed like the natural next step. Shortly after our wedding, our daughter was born, and I changed jobs due to the irregular hours at my previous one. Now I work full-time with fewer overtime demands. What I didn't realize before getting married was that my husband had a strong attachment to his mother. He consulted her on almost every decision. When we were searching for a new house, I was surprised to find that he brought his mother along to viewings. "This apartment is spacious and well located, easy for shopping. Why not choose this one?" she suggested. "What do you think, Mom? Is this place good?" he asked, valuing her opinion over mine. When she commented that the sunlight might not be ideal and perhaps we should consider another place, he readily agreed. Our decisions as a couple were constantly overshadowed by her preferences. Eventually, we settled on a place that she approved of, which I also liked. But the entire process left me feeling uneasy. The same pattern occurred when choosing furniture and appliances. My mother-in-law always accompanied us. I hinted to my husband that we should make these decisions on our own, hoping to establish some independence as a couple. However, he didn't take the hint, continuing to appreciate his mother's presence and advice. This wasn't the only sign of his attachment to her. He often skipped dinner at home, presumably to eat with his mother, which I didn't mind due to my busy schedule. I didn't want to be seen as a nagging wife either. Years into our marriage, as our daughter grew up, we started discussing building a new house. Though my husband had always been a bit of a mama's boy, he was also gentle and uncomplaining when she wasn't around. He was great with our daughter too. I longed for a peaceful new home for just the three of us, my husband, our daughter, and me. So when he suddenly suggested that we live with his mother, I was completely opposed to the idea. "Mom's getting on in years, and I'm worried about her future. How about we live together with her?" he proposed. His mother likely wanted to live with her son and grandchild, but I was adamantly against the idea. She never listened to my opinions, and I always had to be careful not to offend her. She spoiled my husband and clearly saw me as nothing more than an obstacle. Living together would mean seeing each other every day, something I desperately wanted to avoid. "But your mom doesn't want to move far from her current home, right?" I countered, knowing she preferred to stay in the area she had lived in for years. "Yeah, she has friends there and doesn't want to move far," he admitted. "But that area is too far from our workplaces," I pointed out, knowing it would double our commute time. I wanted to live in an area that was convenient for commuting and ideal for raising kids. "Look at this place, it's close to the train station and near your mom's house. What do you think?" I showed him some options from a real estate agent, highlighting areas with plenty of parks, nature, and convenient shopping. While it meant living separately from his mother, the proximity that would allow us to visit her quickly seemed appealing to him, and he agreed with my suggestion. I felt relieved that we wouldn't have to live with my mother-in-law, but that relief was short-lived. She began visiting our house frequently, and my husband welcomed her visits, making it difficult for me to refuse them. I understood her desire to see her grandchild, but our daughter never warmed up to her and would start crying whenever she saw her. I worried this would upset my mother-in-law. Even on days off, I couldn't relax when she was around. "Can't we spend our days off just as a family?" "I always feel on edge when your mom is here," I suggested. "She's my family too." "You're the one making it awkward," he replied, offering no sympathy. Every time she came over, she criticized my cooking and housekeeping as part of her guidance. She'd nitpick my cleaning, especially when I was planning to do a thorough job over the weekend. It was exhausting to be criticized right when I was about to start cleaning, and the meals I worked hard on never seemed to suit her taste. "You don't have the basics of cooking down." "At this rate, you'll never improve," she'd say. "I'm sorry," I'd reply meekly. "It's true, your soup is always too salty. My mom's is always just right," my husband would add, joining in on his mother's complaints and starting to press me too. Normally, he didn't say anything, but when she was around, he suddenly had a lot to say. Feeling discontented with him, I decided to talk to him when my mother-in-law wasn't there. "If you have any complaints, I wish you'd tell me directly. There's no need to wait until your mother is here," I said. "I can't help it. I remember things when I hear Mom talking about them," he replied, a bit annoyed, even though he didn't mean to be hurtful. I still longed for compassion and support in her marriage, but it seemed increasingly difficult for him to understand that. Gradually, our arguments about my mother-in-law became more frequent. Around the time our daughter started first grade, I received news from my mother that my father's health was declining. Caring for him alone had become too much for her at her age, so I decided to adjust my work schedule to help with his care daily. Because of this, my husband began taking on more responsibility for our daughter. She was becoming more independent, helping around the house and understanding of my situation. I was so grateful for her. One day, my mother-in-law came over, furious, accusing me of leaving all the childcare to my husband Gary. "I'm sorry, but my father is really unwell, and my mother is elderly. I really need to be there for them," I explained, hoping she would understand. "I believe families should help each other in tough times," I continued, but my mother-in-law didn't see it that way. "Housework and childcare are a wife's job. Dumping it all on Gary, what are you thinking? If you want to care for your parents, you should still manage everything else. That's the least you can do," she scolded. I couldn't argue back. She couldn't accept her son doing housework and childcare. "Think about it. How is your life supported? It's all thanks to Gary. Don't forget that and be more grateful," she continued. Despite my own income, she insisted it was all my husband's doing, and he didn't defend me once while she was scolding me. The other day, I even had to do the laundry. "I'm not just a helper around here," he added, as if to reinforce her point. I had been so busy with work and caring for my parents that there were times when I just couldn't manage everything. I asked him for help, and while he helped without a word, it became clear he was harboring resentment. His remarks seemed deliberately aimed at escalating his mother's anger, and his attitude grew even stricter as I continued juggling housework, childcare, and caring for my parents. "I want to do my part with the chores, but sometimes it's just too difficult, and I need your help. Even if you can't take care of our child, at least take care of your own things, like tidying up after yourself," I pleaded. "What are you saying? Protecting the home is a wife's duty. Why should I have to do it? Are you trying to push your chores onto me?" he retorted, dismissing my pleas for cooperation. No matter what I said, he wouldn't understand. "Stop talking big when you don't even make as much money as I do. If I say I want a divorce and it really happens, you do realize you and our daughter won't be able to live on your own, right?" he added, his words cutting deep. I couldn't deny it. My income had decreased since I changed jobs, and now it was less than his. With a young child, I had chosen a job with fewer overtime hours rather than a higher salary. Since then, he had become increasingly unreasonable. "If you want to care for them so much, clean the house thoroughly first," he demanded, knowing full well that it was impossible for me with a full-time job. His demands extended beyond cleaning to meals as well. "This isn't enough. Don't always settle for stir-fries, and I don't want store-bought ready meals," he insisted. No matter how exhausted I was from work, skimping on dinner wasn't allowed. I was physically and mentally drained from having to prepare homemade meals daily. I lost interest in my husband, no longer asking for anything or taking care of him as much. I couldn't trust him with our daughter, so I started bringing her with me when I visited my parents. My mother adored her granddaughter and was always thrilled to see us, and my daughter loved playing with her too. "I'm happy when you bring her, but don't overdo it. You look tired." "I'm worried," my mother would say. "It's okay, Mom. I'm relieved you're here to watch her," I would reply, feeling guilty for relying on her so much. Time passed, and my father passed away. My mother and I had to manage many things, and we discussed our family's future. It turns out my father had been a wealthy man with several properties, including our large, well-maintained family home. "You'll continue living here, right, Mom?" I asked. I assumed my mother would want to stay in the family home, but she thought differently. "This house is too big for me alone," she said. Eventually, she decided to move to a flat, and I would take over the family home. After the funeral, I stayed at the family home with my daughter to sort through my father's belongings and handle inheritance matters. One day, while my mother took my daughter out, I was left alone, absorbed in my tasks. Suddenly, my mother-in-law and husband showed up at my parents' house. "Why are you here so unexpectedly? What do you want?" I asked, startled by their unannounced visit. "I heard about it. You've inherited this house, haven't you?" My mother-in-law said, her eyes greedily sizing up the mansion. "With all this space, there's no problem for all of us to live here." "What?" I couldn't grasp the meaning of her words and exclaimed in surprise. With a malicious smile, my mother-in-law continued, "We're moving in today. It's time to re-educate you properly as a daughter-in-law." "Daughter-in-law? Educate?" I was incredulous. It was almost laughable. I stared them down and declared, "Me, your daughter-in-law? I'm single, you know." "What are you talking about?" They seemed confused by my statement. "I've already filed for divorce, so we're strangers now. Unfortunately, there's no daughter-in-law here for you to educate." They were dumbfounded, clearly not expecting me to have actually filed for divorce. "How absurd! That's outrageous," my mother-in-law exclaimed. "It's neither absurd nor outrageous. Gary himself initiated the petition for divorce and received the summons from the court," I said calmly. "She's delusional, a wife defying her husband." My mother-in-law was fuming, her anger escalating. I had sent the response back to the court just before my father passed away. My husband had been no help during my father's illness and had only made things harder for me. My love for him had long since withered, so I agreed to the divorce by sending the papers back to the court, making his threat a reality. I had initially intended to discuss the divorce with him, but neither he nor my mother-in-law would listen. Then my father passed away and the moment was lost. As I listened to her barrage of harsh words, my patience finally snapped. Expecting a wife to obey her husband in everything is an outdated notion. "I'm neither a housekeeper nor a maid," I said firmly. I didn't care if my mother-in-law hated me anymore. I was no longer her daughter-in-law. "How dare you speak like that? Don't get above yourself," she raged, lunging at me. I tried to resist, but she was surprisingly strong. "Stop it. Let go," I shouted, struggling to break free. "How could you divorce without discussing it? Unbelievable. Such a terrible daughter-in-law, trampling on my son whom I raised." Her eyes were bloodshot with fury as she glared at me. "Come on, do something about your mother." I pleaded with my husband, but he just stood there, motionless, unable to accept the reality of the divorce. Realizing I couldn't handle this alone, I struggled with my mother-in-law as I somehow managed to call the police. Even as the officers arrived and I explained the situation, her anger showed no signs of abating. "Please calm down," the police officer said, reaching out to my mother-in-law. "Stop it, don't touch me." She reflexively brushed him off, but in the process, her hand struck the officer's face, leading to her immediate restraint. Despite this, her agitated state continued to pose a danger, so she was taken to the police station. As I watched the police car drive away, I approached my husband, who was standing there dazed. "I'll be claiming alimony for the mental anguish you caused me," I said. "Alimony?" he asked, still in disbelief. "Yes, I've recorded everything," I replied calmly. My husband stood there gaping, seemingly lost without his mother to rely on. Time passed, and one day, my ex-husband appeared at my workplace, apparently through a mutual acquaintance from university. Bad rumors about him had spread at his job. Talk of a runaway wife, mother-in-law problems, and pity for the wife circulated among his colleagues, making him uncomfortable enough to decide to resign. I was shocked to see him. His hair was unkempt, a scruffy beard covered his face, and his overall appearance was disheveled. He had fallen into gambling due to stress and was struggling financially. Given his mother's own gambling habits, his income alone wasn't enough. "It's a nuisance, you coming to my workplace," I said coldly, no longer able to muster any sympathy for him. "I told you, but you never respond when I contact you," I said firmly. "I don't want anything to do with you or your mother anymore," I asserted. "Hear me out, please. Can we reduce the child support? It's been really tough lately," he pleaded. The amount was agreed upon by both of us. "You wanted to do what was best for our child," I reminded him. He clicked his tongue in frustration, glaring at me. "Things have changed. My income is lower, And I hardly get any bonuses, he argued. I knew that if they stopped gambling, they could manage life while still paying alimony and child support, but he didn't see it that way. He wanted to shirk his responsibility as a father. Look, we're both struggling on a single income. Shouldn't we give it another try? He suggested, proposing remarriage out of financial desperation. I was utterly disgusted. His hypocritical manner of proposing infuriated me. Remarry? No way. I never want anything to do with a mama's boy like you again, I retorted. Mama's boy? He reacted, clearly not self-aware. You can't make a single decision without your mom. The house, the furniture, the appliances, you consulted her for everything, I continued. He tried to defend himself, but I cut him off. I know you always go shopping for clothes with your mom and have her pick them out for you. That's generally called being a mama's boy, you know. My ex-husband grunted as if struck by the truth of the matter. He considered himself a devoted son, but to me he was just a dependent mama's boy. And you, I added, you always used to make fun of my income. Well, that's going to end now. What do you mean? He asked, his tone filled with disbelief. Actually, I'm earning more than you now. What? That's impossible. There's no way you earn more than me, he scoffed. It's true. I got a promotion. Yes, I was recognized for my hard work at my new job and am on the path to success. He refused to accept my words, stunned. It made sense, though. He always flaunted his high salary and looked down on me. He never imagined that the wife he belittled would end up earning more than him. You don't have to believe me, but I can show you the pay stubs anytime, I said confidently, knowing that my substantial income, along with my inherited father's estate, had changed the dynamics completely. I can live comfortably without a husband. My days are now pleasantly quiet, free from his domestic demands and his noisy mother. So if that's the case, give me a share of the inherited house and other properties. I have a right to them, my ex-husband insisted. I sighed and explained, listen, inherited property isn't considered part of the marital assets. Sorry, but you have no claim to it. Damn it, this is all because you filed for divorce without my consent. He shot back. I did nothing wrong, I said firmly. It was clear he was struggling to accept the divorce. If you did nothing wrong, why did we get divorced? I was busy with the kids. Did you help at all? He demanded. You didn't do anything. That's because you didn't manage the household properly, I retorted. I asked for your help. Spouses should support each other during tough times. My love gradually faded because you failed to understand the importance of cooperation and support in a marriage. He couldn't grasp how I felt, especially when I needed support the most and didn't get it. It was unfair to expect me to handle all the household chores and child care while working full-time. His belief that housework and child-rearing were solely a wife's responsibility showed his reluctance to share responsibilities. You're the problem for trying to involve the husband, he argued, his voice rising. His ingrained mindset, likely shaped by his mother, seemed impossible to change. Eventually, he created a scene outside my workplace and was escorted away by security guards. Later, he and his mother faced financial difficulties, losing their family home and moving into a cheap flat. They struggled to pay alimony and continued to live in poverty, unable to quit their gambling habits. Now, it's just my daughter and me living together. With help from my mother when work gets busy, we're enjoying a happier life. I've become more cheerful, smiling more often, which seems to make my daughter happy too. I used to worry constantly about my ex-husband and mother-in-law, but now I'm focused on moving forward and showing my daughter a life that's true to myself. From now on, I'll be raising my daughter alone, firmly instilling in her the values of compassion and mutual support, and teaching her to face challenges with a smile. My name is Amy, and I'm 33 years old. I started a business during my college years, and through hard work, I became the CEO. Over time, I expanded the company to achieve an impressive annual turnover of $3 million. Unfortunately, my husband and I were unable to have children. He mocked me for this, calling me barren throughout our marriage. To make matters worse, he fathered a child with another woman and decided to marry her. Despite his own infidelity, he continued to demean me until the end. His cruel remarks cut deep. He once told me, "Go get some fertility treatment. It's a joke to live your whole life alone. And you have the nerve to say that after having an affair, it's true you can't get pregnant. No one will marry someone like you." I had finally reached the breaking point. A few days ago, I filed for divorce. I've moved back to my parents' house, while my soon-to-be ex-husband remains in the home we shared. He contacted me to remove my belongings because he plans to live there with his new partner. Today is likely the last day I'll see him, and he stayed true to form with his sarcasm. The future bride is coming. The barren woman should pack up and leave. Your presence will make her uncomfortable, he said. This was my home too, I retorted. Why should I rush out for your cheating and remarried partner? The divorce is already final. Such clingy remarks are disgraceful. We agreed that I continue living here, so you have no reason to stay. Hurry up. I was going to leave anyway. Good luck finding a new man to support you. Oh, but a barren woman like you remarrying is impossible. His continued sarcasm was astounding. I had grown accustomed to his contempt, but his nasty remarks still grated on me. I knew I had made the right decision to divorce. As I sighed, I wondered why I had ever married him. We met by chance at a cafe near our workplace, and after his persistent pursuit, we started dating. I had always been focused on my work, with little involvement in romance, often feeling betrayed and hurt. Despite this, I still hoped for a family and children in the future. As a CEO with a $3 million revenue, I was frequently approached for my money, which I despised. To avoid this, I lied to my husband, claiming to be a low-income contract worker, and even used a subsidiary's business card to hide my true status. He said he fell in love with me at first sight and pursued me relentlessly. Little did I know he would turn into such a sarcastic person. As years went by, it became clear that a man's interest would wane for a younger, more attractive woman, and my husband proved that when he started an affair right after our marriage. He even fathered a child with his lover. When he asked for a divorce, I accepted immediately. Assuming I was financially poor, he never discussed dividing assets. Instead, when he and his mistress came to apologize for his infidelity, they quickly offered compensation for my mental distress. Amy, you're a contract worker, aren't you? In a worse position than me, childless and abandoned. A younger woman has taken your husband and child to remarry. I'm terribly sorry. We'll definitely pay the compensation, his mistress said. Indeed, my husband added, infertility treatments cost money, and I will pay my share too. Despite their promises, their words were laced with scorn, fueling my anger. His mistress, a charming woman 8 years younger than me, was eager to have a child and become a housewife. When my husband wasn't around, I asked her if she planned to continue working. She firmly replied that she intended to quit after taking a 3-year maternity leave to get money from the company, rather than quitting right after marriage. But isn't that inconvenient for the company? I asked. Well, I became a full-time employee to get all the benefits, right? It's not uncommon for people not to return after maternity leave. You're too serious, Amy. You need to be smarter about this. It's probably why your husband left you, she retorted sarcastically. I was seething with irritation. I had no problem with being a housewife, but I couldn't empathize with someone who so thoughtlessly inconveniences others. My husband, oblivious to her disregard, had continued to belittle me. Infertile women should hurry up and get treatment. Your looks are your only asset, and they're fading with age too, he'd sneer. Who are you talking about? I asked, feeling a surge of defiance. You, the infertile woman, he replied with contempt. In response, I pulled out some documents from an envelope. What's this? He demanded, unable to hide his agitation. Inside were 3 documents I had carefully gathered, each meant to shock him. After years of mockery, betrayal, and listening to him brag about his affair and remarriage, my anger had reached its peak. I didn't want his compensation money. I was determined to get my revenge and leave him unsettled. You kept calling me infertile. So I got tested. Here are the results, I said, placing the documents in front of him. No abnormalities. So who is this infertile woman you keep talking about? Maybe the issue lies with you. This is ridiculous, he stammered. It has to be her. Despite our efforts, we never managed to have kids. Even if you say there's nothing wrong with you, I managed to have a child with her. I wasn't even trying, and she got pregnant right away. He looked visibly confused, as if the fear that his infertility might be the cause and the suspicion that the child might not be his were overwhelming him. Well, it's too convenient that she got pregnant so quickly when we couldn't. She's young and cute, but could it be someone else's child? He muttered, his shock evident. You haven't been tested, have you? I said. It might actually be your child. Don't be so pessimistic. I tried to console him, but he seemed to have convinced himself of his own infertility. Disturbed, he immediately contacted his lover, insisting they needed to talk. What did she say? I asked. She's coming over now, he replied. That's good, I said in a deliberately cheerful tone. If you can confirm it's your child, you'll feel relieved, right? After a moment, he pulled out another document from an envelope. It was a detective's report. This photo. It's me. When was this taken? And this one, right after we got married. Did you know about this all along? Yes, I said calmly. I've known about your infidelity for years, long before you ever admitted to it. That's why I wasn't surprised when you confessed your affair. At the time when I was happiest in our marriage, you were already involved with someone else. Why didn't you say something sooner? If you knew, you should have talked to me. I feel like a fool for not seeing it. Why should I be the one getting scolded? I've been turning a blind eye to your affairs. You should actually be thankful. Hiring a detective right after we got married, that's just pathetic. It's clear you never trusted me at all. I'm shocked, but I know divorcing was the right decision. In the end, you were deceiving me too. We were betraying each other, so it's only fair. When we decided to get married, I was completely carefree and didn't think to conduct a background check on you. I submitted the marriage registration without truly knowing you. We were newlyweds, affectionate and intimate, but even if it wasn't a marriage of convenience, it's never a loss to understand your partner's background. So just to be cautious, I requested an investigation a few months after our marriage. That investigation unexpectedly revealed your infidelity. I was shocked, as there were no signs of cheating before. But I didn't fall into despair. I wasn't obsessed with you. I married you because you courted me. Yes, I loved you, but only because you cherished and loved me. I wasn't going to cling to a husband who didn't care about me. I wasn't deeply hurt. I was just astonished that you could be with me while seeing other women. I told you this to set the record straight. From the beginning of our marriage, my career was my top priority, and I didn't want to get bogged down with divorce proceedings or negotiating alimony right away. Instead, I chose to focus on my work, which is why I continued to ignore your infidelity. When I revealed this to you, you responded with, "But weren't we trying to have a child?" What would you have done if you had gotten pregnant? Were you planning to raise it together even though you knew about the affair? Yes, I said. A child is a gift from God, and we can't control everything. I lied. The truth was, I pretended to be trying to conceive with you because you wanted a child. After your infidelity came to light, I secretly took birth control pills. Honestly, I was reluctant to start a family with an unfaithful husband and anticipated that we would eventually divorce. To avoid pregnancy, I secretly continued using birth control. Ultimately, the fact that we didn't have children was a planned outcome. While I had some fantasies about having kids, I wasn't strongly motivated to do so. Even with a babysitter, I knew that parenting would distract from my work focus. I went along with my husband's desire to have a child, but I had no obligation to undergo pregnancy and childbirth for a man who deceived me. In short, we weren't infertile. I was just using birth control and didn't bother to tell him because it seemed too troublesome. Unaware of this, my husband mistakenly believed he was infertile and thought his mistress was pregnant by another man. As we discussed this, his mistress arrived at our house for the first time since the alimony negotiations. She was the type who easily attracted men and was often disliked by women, and today was no different. "Hello, Amy. You're here to collect all your things, right? I appreciate the trouble you're going through," she said, her tone dripping with contempt, clearly reveling in having taken my husband. I replied sarcastically, "I should be thanking you. You're taking over my hand-me-down husband and house." Her smile faltered at my response. As we continued our exchange, my husband seemed increasingly agitated and anxious. He interrupted our conversation. "Hey, I might be infertile. Isn't it strange that we couldn't have a child?" "What are you talking about all of a sudden? That's impossible. Has someone been feeding you nonsense? We're getting married. Your previous wife was the one with infertility issues, right?" "No, she wasn't infertile," I said calmly, pulling out the test results. "It's hard to discuss, but we were genuinely trying to have a child. If neither of us had issues, it wouldn't be unusual if we succeeded. But we did. Yet for us to have a child without realizing it, something's off. Maybe it's because you and I weren't meant to be. Your previous marriage just wasn't meant to work. Let's stop this pointless conversation. Doubting me is only going to stress me out and affect her baby. My husband's suspicions about his mistress extended beyond infertility. He pulled out a photo from an envelope and demanded, "What is this supposed to be?" The photo showed his mistress cozying up with another male colleague. After discovering his infidelity, I had hired a detective to investigate her as well. It turned out she had been involved with several men at work. Along with a photo of her with another colleague, there were also pictures of her heading to hotels with other partners. The mistress turned pale at the sight of the photos. "What is this?" she gasped, clearly stunned. "I had you investigated too," I told her. "It's truly deplorable how many men you've been involved with at work. I had this evidence long before you started talking about remarriage. Every time my husband mentioned you, I couldn't help but laugh inside at the absurdity of deciding to marry while being unaware of your infidelity. I'm truly astounded. If you knew, you should have told me sooner. I wouldn't have married this woman and we wouldn't have ended up divorced. If the infertility was my fault, I would have sought treatment to have a child with you," my husband exclaimed, his attitude shifting dramatically upon learning about his mistress's multiple affairs. "Please, what are you saying now? The child in my belly is growing every day, and these photos are from so long ago. Don't bring them up now. Since conceiving your child, you're the only one for me. I wouldn't even consider remarriage if I didn't love you. Is there any proof that the child is actually mine? It could be someone else's. If you're so sure, show me the evidence. The men in these photos are all my juniors. If the child's theirs, I refuse to raise it." "The child was conceived after we slept together," I said firmly. "It's obviously yours. The introductions to our parents are done. There's no turning back now. We haven't filed the marriage registration, so this is our last chance to start over and clarify the truth." After a heated argument with my husband, his mistress turned her hostility towards me. We were living peacefully until my ex-wife brought these photos. "We've settled our discussions and paid the alimony. Why interfere now? It's pitiful for a discarded wife to still cause a fuss." "You always mock me for being older," I retorted. "But is that all you can say? Perhaps it's because youth is all you have." I wasn't obsessed with my husband, and hearing about the remarriage didn't hurt me much. "Your attacks are meaningless. Had I not exposed your affairs, you would have continued to hide them from him. I thought it was kinder not to have secrets between spouses." "Kindness? That's rich coming from you. These photos have only caused chaos. We could have been happy otherwise." "You're terrible," the mistress retorted, visibly shaken. "Wait a minute, were you really planning to keep hiding this from me? I can't believe a woman with such nerve. Let's reconsider the remarriage." My husband was clearly rattled by the mistress's betrayal. I was taken aback by this turn of events as well, but I couldn't help but think that if their relationship was this fragile, it was doomed from the start. "I paid alimony to you, justifying my relationship with him. If it's going to be nullified, I should have just denied the affair from the beginning," I said. "Calling off the remarriage now is unthinkable." Upon hearing this, my lover responded, "About that alimony, I accepted it at the time, but I donated all of it afterward. I have enough money as it is. I never wanted to keep any money from you too, so I don't appreciate being talked down to as if you did me a favor with that amount." "What? Don't talk big when your income is probably enough to cover that small amount," the mistress snapped. "That alimony nearly wiped out my savings. Donating it is just a joke, right? If that was the case, you should have said you didn't want it from the start." No, my husband interjected. "She's just a contract worker in our subsidiary. Her income is clearly less than ours, so that's obviously a lie. If you really have that much money, marry me again and support me." My husband spoke with disbelief, still mocking me. "You know, I had planned to support you after a few years of marriage. So when I heard you were divorcing me to remarry a younger woman, I thought it was foolish. Stop with the nonsense." "Actually," I said calmly, "there's something I've been hiding. Look inside this envelope." As I spoke, my husband pulled out a photo from the envelope. It was a picture of the board of directors of the group company he works for. His expression turned to shock as he saw the image. The mistress's eyes widened in recognition. "Isn't that this lady?" she asked incredulously. "Is this a fake?" "Of course it's not a fake," I replied. "The person at the center of the photo is me. I'm the president of your parent company. Sorry for keeping it a secret." "Wait a minute." the mistress exclaimed. "You're supposed to be just a contract worker at our subsidiary, and I thought the president of the parent company was a man." "Stop lying." "Yes, I used a pseudonym at the company," I admitted. "When I started my business as a student, I faced frequent dismissal simply because I was a woman. To navigate these challenges, I used a male pseudonym and kept my identity private. My father acted as a director and spokesperson in the media while I pretended to be a contract worker. This strategy helped me avoid the scrutiny and potential jealousy that might arise from being a female president. I intended to reveal my true identity to you eventually. I had enough funds to support us, but saying my parents were dead was also a lie. My father is my business partner and my mother is well and living at home. Only the top executives knew the truth, so it's natural that you, as a subsidiary employee, wouldn't have been aware of it." When I disclosed this, their faces turned pale. My husband pleaded, "I don't know if the child is mine. I'll cancel the remarriage. Please, I beg you, cancel the divorce. I really wanted a child with you." "You were just insulting me and calling me a baroness," I responded coolly. "The divorce papers have already been filed. It's impossible to cancel now. Do you understand who you're speaking to?" With a smile, I added, "As the president of the parent company, I've resolved to address this situation publicly to protect my valuable employees from being deceived by your behavior." The mistress, who had been mocking me as an older woman, suddenly shifted her tone and apologized. "I'm sorry for trying to take your husband. If you wish, I'll return him to you. Please forgive me." I replied, "He's my hand-me-down, so I don't need him returned. By the way, I need to announce the pregnancy within the company once it's stable." The mistress's face went even wider at this news. "Please, could you not do that? Why would it cause problems if the company knows?" I asked her sarcastically, "Do you think it wouldn't be a problem? It's likely that you're still involved with others in the company. If exposed, you face backlash from those men and find yourself in a difficult situation." I resolved to make the situation public. The next day, I went to the office and revealed that I, the president, am a woman and that my husband had an affair, divorced me, and had a child with his mistress. The revelation caused a stir among the employees, with many whispering about the scandal. As a result, my husband lost his credibility at work and became a target of criticism. He found himself in a difficult working environment. The mistress was also exposed for having relationships with multiple men at the company. She faced the wrath of those men, who were furious after receiving expensive gifts from her under false pretenses. Although the scandal could have led to lawsuits, it didn't go to court. The mistress managed to deflect blame and claimed the gifts were hers. Upon learning the full story, my father advised the mistress to consider leaving the company. Meanwhile, my ex-husband was ordered to transfer to a remote branch in Indonesia, a place few would willingly go. The mistress decided to accompany him there to raise their child together. Both their families refused to acknowledge their grandchild due to the scandal and their disrespect toward the president. In Indonesia, they faced the challenge of raising their child without family support. My ex-husband harbored growing distrust over the child's paternity and wanted a DNA test, but the mistress insisted there was no such facility in Indonesia, avoiding the test. Despite not wanting to remarry my husband, driven by his desire for a child and pressure from the mistress, ended up marrying her. However, the reality of married life was not as easy as he had imagined. The mistress, who had seen my husband as the top choice among the men she had been involved with, was now content living as a housewife. She claimed that she chose him for his high position. As for me, I've remained in the media spotlight as a female entrepreneur, leading a busy and fulfilling life. The company's stock price surged, and I continue to lead with success and resilience.